Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to the season finale of the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship Season 18 as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing, and proudly hosted by none other than SimRacing International. That's right, we have made our way all the way back to the United Kingdom for round 10 of 10 in our Sunday Showdown series, and for this showdown we have made our way to the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit for the Donington Decider. Stealing the name as coined by the British GT Championship, which annually is hosted here for its season finale at the Donington Park circuit. And this circuit, located right in the heart of the United Kingdom, taking the nickname of the heart of British motorsport, is one that's not to be underestimated. At 2.49 miles in length, or just over 4 kilometres, is a circuit whose weavings bends give way gradually to what is two very sharp hairpins right at the end of the lap, meaning it's all about finding the fast flow, but being ready to be daring on the brakes if you want to go forward and never look back. For our drivers, strategy can be just as key as a good pole lap in qualifying, and therefore overtakes can be expected all the way from start to finish, and the racing will be absolutely relentless from lights out to check the flag. But come the end of it all, somebody's got to be champion across our three classes of Pro, Inter and Club, and of course we are expecting to be crowning our champions in the Teams Championship out of our 4 teams that are looking to duke it out. But indeed, as we head into this round, it has been a season with ups and downs, with rises and scores for many a driver, and also some difficulties. But who exactly is going to get it right here in the Leicestershire countryside to complete their season on a high? Well, that's what we're here to find out in this live broadcast from Circuit Side. Indeed, you're tuning today, the one place you can catch all the racing action from SimRacing International YouTube, SimRacing International series, and of course on youtube.com, and search for SimRacing International SRI. And well, welcome to you guys and girls tuning in tonight. And don't be shy, feel free to say hi in the YouTube chat if you're tuning in, and let us know how you're doing, how your weekend's been, and who you're cheering on today as we get ready for our final race of the season. In the commentary, if you have myself, my name is Paul Walsh, uninitiated, and I shall be your host and commentator for tonight. And what a season it has been to cover, and we've got plenty to look forward to coming into this final round, round 10 of 10. But as we make our way into this final round with all the points up for grabs, well, let's take a look back at the schedule of this season and bring it up to speed with the story from round number 9 and how exactly the standings stand after 9 incredible rounds of superb racing action. For as we can see, we come to the conclusion of our calendar. We began all the way back with our pre-season event on the 29th of March at the Sebring International Circuit. Then we began April with a bang at the Hockenheimring Baden-Württemberg in Germany with round number 1. And we made our way through April at the Spa-Francorchamps Circuit, then Mugello in Italy. And then we made our way to Japan for the first of 2 visits to the country. Fuji, it was wet weather conditions there. And then we completed the first half of the season in the United Kingdom at the Brands Hatch Grand Prix Circuit. In the county of Kent, we saw plenty of battles unfold on the 3rd of May. And then we made our way straight into the second half of the season on the 10th of May at Circuit Zolder, everybody's second favourite Belgian circuit, somewhat lingering in the shadows of Spa-Francorchamps all the way back in round number 2. And we didn't linger long at Zolder, because after that we made our way to the Suzuka Grand Prix circuit for the second of our 90-minute races, and there we got to see in very tricky conditions on the 17th of May an incredible round of racing action, and that completed our standard points rounds. Because new for this season, rounds 8 through to 10 became Showdown rounds, or the Showdown stage, whereby no round is droppable and every round is worth 50% more points. So for the win, it's not 100 points, it's 150. And that all began at Magny-Cours in round number 8 on the 24th of May. And last time out on the 31st of May, we were at Road Atlanta. And when exactly did we get to see the roller coaster ride of road racing in the US of A? Our only visit to the US of A outside of Sebring in the pre-season event, intriguingly. It's crazy to think a GT3 calendar with only 1 visit to the US when points are concerned. Well, those points were definitely paid out to none other than Adam Watson, who absolutely ran away with proceedings out of our 34 driver grid in qualifying and proceeded to run away with proceedings in the race itself, pro and overall. But qualifying was not just about Adam Watson dominating with pole position by 2 tenths ahead of Thomas Noakes, but we did see the gaps between the top 5 spanning tenths, and then outside of the top 5, beyond all the way to the very back of the field, it was hundreds and thousands. And Steve Hobbs, well, he took a season best 5th place overall and in pro. Jake Muttit also looked very impressive with 17th place overall and 5th in the interclass, and we also saw a strong qualifying lap from Stephen Wilkinson, who took 24th overall and 4th in club, and it had to be expected given the fact that Road Atlanta, a circuit so familiar to many on our grid, given the fact it's the annual host of the Petit Le Mans, or 6 hours of Road Atlanta, both in real life and also in iRacing special events. But we also saw some shocks in qualifying, including Luke Sherlock, who openly admitted when he jumped into the YouTube chat in the build-up to the race, suddenly had a nightmare qualifying session, managing only 26th overall and 8th in the interclass. And also we saw Nathan Anstis, while our leading pros typically on very popular circuits, we only managed 20th overall and 13th in the pro class. But when we went racing, It was a runaway win for Adam Watson, but it was not a runaway situation for the battle of the rest of the overall and pro podium spots, whereby there was entertainment right behind Watson from the start, with Thomas Noakes, Tim Probert and Harvey Wheeler fighting hard for second place on laps 1 through to 6, which eventually saw Tim Probert move into second and contact between Noakes and Wheeler into what was turn number 6, where it saw the pair of them drop down. But in particular, Thomas Noakes had a long slip down the order, and he would subsequently go on to recover to third place. And meanwhile, for Harvey Wheeler, it was a difficult race, no doubt about it. And well, outside of that, we also got to see an early battle for the interwin between Hayden Young, who got ahead of Mikey Stewart on lap 2, and Cy Anti followed very closely behind, and Stewart fell out of the battle on lap 13 with an error through the S's, which saw his BMW lose its bonnet, and he kept himself in the race, no doubt about it, but then it was a recovery drive for him, and meanwhile it took a lot of time before Cy Anti started to build the pressure on Hayden Young, but it never truly came to fruition. And as for the club class, well, outside of Jack Barker in the interclass putting on a display, we also got to see a display in club for none other than what was Jordan Butler and Tom Wheeler, who went back and forth for 8th place, all the way through it. It was non-stop all the way, and Ryan Clark in the end took the position from the pair because they had a major incident on the penultimate lap after Clark's own major incident right at the start of the day seemed to have spoiled this race, but Ryan Clark never gave up and he took that 8th place off of the pair of them. But who exactly were your winners across our classes? Well, of course, pro and overall, as we mentioned only moments ago, it was Adam Watson who took pole position and then proceeded to take the victory in the end by a grand total of what was almost 15 seconds ahead of Tim Probert, and he put it all down in his post-round interview to none other than his corner exits, especially for the opening 5 corners, where he was able to gain tenths per lap compared to his rivals, and it was a very well-driven third win of the season. Although, intriguingly, he did mention the fact that he seemed to struggle in the second stint when fuel saving wasn't required because he was so used to driving at about 90% to save the fuel and save the tyres. In the interclass, well, it was a win, another one added to his run of victories for Hayden Young, and with the dream of potentially stealing away the Inter crown for Mikey Stewart, it's definitely very much alive after taking second place in qualifying, 8 tenths behind Stewart, but in the race he definitely had the pace in hand, and we got to see him go on the attack right at the start. However, he had to fend off what was the pressure of Mikey Stewart initially until Stewart got it wrong through the S's, and then it was the concern of Cy Ansley breathing down his neck towards the very end of the race, and it really did define the whole rest of the race distance, with Cy Ansley constantly a threat, but never quite materialising enough to put Hayden Young under extreme pressure, and it meant that Hayden Young was able to make it his second win of the season and a second in a row. As for the club class, it was Martin Kenyon who took the victory. However, you would not fall to it when we did go green flag racing, because in qualifying, we'd only managed third place in class, and he was almost 3 tenths off the pole time set by Grant Miller, one of his best qualifying laps of the season, and Matthew Massey had been able to weave his way between the pair of them in second place. However, Kenyon was able to pass Massey on the open lap and then proceeded to chase down Miller as quickly as he could, but Miller seemed to have the pace advantage until a huge error coming out of turn number 10 at the chicane on lap 21 saw Miller into the barrier, and it handed the lead to Kenyon. And then suddenly, for Grant Miller, it was all about trying to get back onto the rear of Kenyon, which he did so with 2 laps to go, but couldn't quite find the move. And Martin Kenyon was able to take the win, and it was his 5th win of the season by only 1.5 tenths at the finish line. But of course, if those were the headlines from Road Atlanta, how exactly does it cause the standings to stack up after 9 rounds of racing? Well, here we can see, starting with the Pro Top 12, Harvey Wheeler leads the way, but that's 7th place last time out. With the bad luck that Thomas Noakes had received in rounds 7 and 8, well, it's time the bad luck went elsewhere, and it seemed to go to the Aversa Rapid by Freewheeler Racing driver, and well, suddenly it means his advantage now is only a grand total of none other than 25 points. Well, in fact, should that be 35 points there when I do my mental mathematics correctly? And well, we can tell you, in fact, it is 35 points, and well, with that, what does it exactly mean for the championship permutations today? Because, of course, it is a 2-pronged fight between Wheeler and Noakes. Well, for Harvey Wheeler to become champion, all he needs to do is finish 3rd or higher in class, or if he finishes in 4th place, Noakes must finish 2nd or lower. Alternatively, if Wheeler finishes in 5th, then Noakes must finish 3rd or lower, and it will be Harvey Wheeler's crown to take. But you can bet the MK Sim Sport driver will be very keen to try and steal away that win in the championship if he can, and the best thing to do is take the victory overall and then leave nothing up to chance. But meanwhile, Kyle Roy sits in 3rd place by comparison, and his day at Road Atlanta was definitely a bit of a tricky one, because he started 8th in the qualifying order, and he was well off the pace in qualifying, 7 tenths off of Watson's pole time, but he looked more akin to the Kyle Roy we've come to know and love when he went racing. And he picked up the pace, moved into 6th by the end of lap 1, and rose to the ranks to finish in what was none other than 4th place, taking that 4th place by his pit stop, and looked absolutely brilliant. And he went on the attack versus Thomas Pugh towards the end of the race for 3rd place, whilst also fending off Harvey Wheeler, and in the end it all worked out in his favour, and keeping Thomas Noakes behind him for as long as possible, but Noakes proved to be a little bit too strong by comparison, and was a return to the top 5 for Kyle Roy, which we absolutely love to see. Behind the Axis Sim Sport with SimWorks Drive, it's Tim Probert in 4th place, back-to-back second place finishes, and indeed he seems to be building this run of back-to-back podiums, but can he take a win in the season finale for Send It Racing? He had one of his strongest performances of the season last time out, and he does sit in 4th now, chasing after Roy, only 10 points between the two of them, and Max Wheeler meanwhile sits in a bit of a lonely 5th for a Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing, with another top 10 finish last time out confirming him as a 5th place finisher, unless Fotis Katios is able to cause a major upset today. But the Split Straight Esports driver, I suspect he'll be keen just to make sure he sees the checkered flag should he join the grid for this season finale. Thomas Pugh in 7th place there for Axis Sim Sports with Sim Coach, and was a top 5 last time out. It could have been a podium. It wasn't quite, however, for the Mercedes AMG driver, but he definitely got stuck into the fighting, and he sits only 15 points ahead of Adam Watson, who with his 3rd win on the board, where it's definitely been one of those seasons for the Altitude Freedom Esports driver, where when he's been on a win, it's definitely been a huge high, but when it's been going wrong, it's all seemed to go in the bin. And Casper Rotner sits a further 26 points adrift in 9th place for Old Dudes in Cars, and behind the Dane, it's Archie Williams who completes that top 10 for Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks. Then we do have Nathan Astis in 11th place there for UKSimRacing Hamilton, who still has a chance to potentially take a trophy should he find the points to get ahead of Thomas Pugh, and the rest of the drives between him and Pugh, but he's got to be aware that Darren Sharples is never too far behind for Old Dudes in Cars. Then to the Interclass we go. As we can see in the Interclass, it's Mikey Stewart who leads the way on 753 points to 732 of Hayden Young. So a grand total of a 21-point advantage. What exactly does it mean? Well, for Mikey Stewart to become champion, he needs to firstly finish 2nd or higher, or should he finish in 3rd, then it would be Hayden Young who must finish 2nd or lower, and that continues. If Stewart was to finish 4th, then it would be Young who needs to finish 3rd or lower, and should we see Mikey Stewart finish in 5th place, then Young must finish 3rd or lower, because if we did see Young finish in 3rd, Stewart would take it via countback on wins, with 3 to what would be at the point 2 for Hayden Young. So therefore, for Mikey Stewart, he still holds some control over this championship charge. However, it's not as much control as he had going to Magny Court all the way back in round number 8. And that's what Hayden Young is applying the fault to here. He needs that 3rd win in a row, and it's up to Mikey Stewart to see if he can deliver the blow that will knock Hayden Young out of contention, or will the Send It Racing driver fully send himself all the way to the top. Well, outside the top 2, Sight Anti cannot touch the championship crown now. What he can do, however, for UKSimRacing Hamilton is try and make it a 5th podium of the season, and given his progression, a 3rd, a 2nd, could it be a 1st today? And if so, he'd be able to stay ahead of Jack Barker right at the end of the season. But the Made for Racing drive's not out of the hunt yet. He'll be looking to chase that 3rd place if he can, or at least make sure that Jake Muttett doesn't get any closer, given the gap between the two of them is 39 points. And the Phoenix Racing Blue driver took a season best result of 3rd place last time out at Road Atlanta. He really was a star in his McLaren. Tom Cordy slips to 6th, 9 not on the grid for the remainder of the season, of course. His last round was all the way back in round number 7 at Suzuka, with that maiden win end this season on a high, and Luke Sherlock sits a further 20 points behind for Darkwing Racing. Pete Holt, Hendrik Zilka, and Steve Hughes complete your top 10. The Send It Racing driver, the best part there of 43 points ahead of Hendrik Zilka for Old Duty Cars, and the UK Sim Racing Norris driver of Hughes sitting in 10th place on 230 points, ahead of Brandon Vincent Squibb for Type 2 Racing, and Ashley Brooks, the Axis Sim Sports driver. Well, he'll be completing that top 12. Equal points to Brandon Vincent Squibb, but behind based on result countback. Then to the club class we go. And here we can see in club, it's Martin Kenyon who leads the way with 5 wins. And in theory, all he needs to do today is finish 11th or higher in class, and he will be your champion, which is almost certainly guaranteed, presuming the fact we do have 11 club drives in attendance currently. However, for Martin, as he mentioned in his post-round interview last time out at Road Atlanta, he set himself the goal of a 6th win of the season, and should he be able to do it, he'll end the season on over 1,000 points, and it would be a record in the series history for a driver to complete a championship campaign in excess of 1,000 points. The previous highest, we don't have the exact number, we do believe it's approximately 800 points, so therefore Martin Kenyon will be going for an all-time record for Piz Tech Racing. Grant Miller, meanwhile, will still want that maiden win of the season if he can take it, and the Phoenix Racing Red driver, he's always been the runner-up typically in these races, but can he finally find that win today and spoil the party of Kenyon? Tom Wheeler sits in 3rd for a Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing. And in turn, his fight right now is to make sure that Alexander Wingmark does not steal that 3rd place away from him, and the Base Australia has been looking highly consistent over recent rounds. Jordan Maymar as well, not on the grid last time out, however, should he be back today, or could he potentially make it a 5th win of his own this season? And I do believe he is here at Donington Park, so we look forward to seeing what the Simcast Racing driver can do, with his teammate Stephen Wilkinson a further 4 points adrift there. We then have in at 7th place David Young, and with a logistical nightmare privateer, we'll be hoping that he can perhaps thwart the attempts there of Maymar and Wilkinson in terms of finishing inside the top 5. 5, and Jordan Butler sits a little bit further behind in 8th place for the Spectra Racing team, but ahead of James Connolly by only 6 points for UKSimRacing Norris, and Matthew Massey for Spectra Racing Feet Burby completes your top 10. Derek Pilcher is in 11th place, a little bit out of touch now with the top 10, but looking to end his season strong, and Ryan Clark just follows 11 points behind. Expect a bit of rivalry between the two of them before the finish line. Then we do have in the Teams Championship your 4 contenders for the crown. Leading the way, of course, the Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing, and they'll be happy to be leading the way coming into this finale, given the fact they remain in first place after Road Atlanta, but it is a slender lead of only 15 points of Ascendant Racing, who really are on the ascendancy. They've risen from 3rd to 2nd. Can they go one final step? Can they lead the championship right at the end of the season? Something they've yet to do this season. Axis Sim Sports with Sim Coach sit in 3rd, and then we do have behind them Phoenix Racing Red, but in total it is just shy of the best part of 130 points separating your top 4, and any one of our leading 4 teams can in theory take that crown. Simcast Racing UK, they sit in 5th. Meanwhile, they would need a huge momentum swing to take the crown. They could theoretically do it, but they would need all 4 of the leading teams not to score any points, and they'd need to absolutely maximise the points to be able to steal it away. So therefore, they're looking to finish 5th at the worst today, but ideally potentially try and take a top 3 if they could. But from their 1,028 points on 964, it's Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks, and as we can see right now, they're in a bit of close contention with the 7th place rivals, the UKSimRacing Hamilton, and will both teams hold on to their spots, although it should be noted that UKSimRacing Hamilton will return to 7th place, which they were in earlier in the season, but after a dismal time at Madeley Court, Road Atlanta has made the difference for them. But they've got the threat of Pizstep Racing directly behind them, and don't rule out MK Simsport nor Spectre Racing to complete that top 10. And outside the top 10, after Spectre Racing have returned to it, we've seen the slip of Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing, who's sitting 11th now. They're off screen, but they're only 37 points behind 10th place, and 51 points ahead of UKSimRacing Norris in 12th, so it looks like they'll be the main contender to try and break the way back into the top 10 right at the end of the season. But of course, that's how the standings stand. Let's tell you a little bit about host circuit very quickly before we do head to the qualifying circuit. And as we can see, it's the Grand Prix layout of Donington Park, the place host to our drivers. Located near Castle Donington in the county of Leicestershire in England, the United Kingdom. And this circuit spanning 2.49 miles or 4.02 kilometres, depending on your preference of units, but what never changes is the number of corners, 12 of them in total. And a huge thank you to iRacing.com, not just their brilliant simulator, but the absolutely fantastic track maps contained within it. And while all these corners household names in the United Kingdom, but even further abroad in the European continent, whereby we do have the full extent of the circuit, and we'll give you some onboard laps, ladies and gentlemen, to give you an idea of what exactly it's all about. But the best way to think about it, turns 1 all the way through to turn number 10. So from Redgate all the way through to the S's, fast flying, a highly aggressive circuit. And then we do have Melbourne Hairpin and Goddard's, the 2 parts that make up the Grand Prix loop of the circuit. 2 very heavy braking zones and 2 very sharp hairpins that can take the flow out of the circuit and completely neutralise all the momentum and make it all about battles under braking. But without further ado, we head back to circuit side to see how our drivers are getting on in the final throws of this qualifying session. And as we can see, currently leading the way in qualifying, albeit not by the biggest of margins at the moment, only a 10th of that. It is Adam Watson for Altitude 3M Esports in his McLaren 720S Evo. And we do know this McLaren can be very quick through circuits, so all about momentum and direction change, of which the McLaren is one of the kings of it. And Donington Park definitely fits the bill, albeit Thomas Noakes in his Ferrari 296 MK Simsport, knowing he needs this win, well, he's going for that pole position as well. And half a second behind the pair, Harvey Wheeler for Free Wheeler Racing, a Verso Rapid, and as he heads on down the hill, going all the way through Hollywood and in towards the Craner Curves, turn number 3. Well, right now for Harvey Wheeler, if things were to finish as they're currently qualifying, he would be a champion, so therefore he won't be too upset about this. All he needs to do is shadow Noakes today, and that would be more than enough for him to be able to get the job done. However, outside that top 3, Mikey Shirt sits in 4th currently. He is currently your Interpol sitter provisionally on 1 minute 25.758, and well, he is the best part of 300ths behind Harvey Wheeler, but in turn, he is only 1.5 tenths, if that, ahead of Anton Kalo, who returns to the grid today, and it's good to see the second member of the MK Simsport team back on the grid once again, and it's never quite the day when we don't have Anton, because he's had some great results this season. He's also had quite a bit of bad luck, particularly, of course, that bad luck striking him harder at Fuji when things were looking so good, and we hope to see him have some better luck today and end his season on a high. But on the theme of inter-drives, if Mikey Shirt's the visual pole sitter, you have to go to 7th place for Sight Ansley, who's the second faster than currently, as he makes his way on around. He is currently the best part of what is 3 tenths behind Mikey Shirt. It seems like Shirt has found some pace in that McLaren, As sight anti is Porsche 9-2 continues to push on for UKSimRacing Hamilton. And well, I would make a little bit of a play with regards to the team name and the performance of Lewis Hamilton, the Formula 1 driver on which the team name is based on his performance at the Monaco Grand Prix earlier today. But just in case there's some of you sat there right now not wanting any spoilers, perhaps you decide to record, or you're going to catch up with what's the race at Monaco on demand. Well, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I won't say anything, and that way you don't have to risk of spoilers there, because we do care about your enjoyment of motorsport, where it's simulated alternatively in real life here at SimRacing International. But definitely sight anti right now, looking to go for pole position as quickly as he can, but he's got quite a bit of a gap to close down. But as for Hayden Young for Send It Racing, well, this is not the way he wants to start the day. He's going to the third fastest in the interclass, all the way down the 11th place, and from him to sight anti, it's almost 3 attempts, and it would be a further 3 attempts almost to Mikey Stewart. So right now, things looking very tough for Hayden Young. However, to be fair, qualifying is just a lap. The race is 60 minutes, full of laps, and indeed, track limits around here are going to be key, and instant points will very quickly rack up should you get it wrong, and it won't be a surprise if we see some drive-throughs today, and we'll hopefully no disqualifications. But as Young toes the pit lane, well, what about in the club class? We see the pro Carl Roy going onto a flying lap. Well, currently it is Martin Kenyon who proves to be the fastest provisionally in the club qualifiers, and he's currently 10th place and 1 second off the overall pole time. But in terms of how quick he is compared to his rivals, he is 3.5 seconds quicker than Jordan Butler, who's parked a bit further back in the pit lane. Albeit he has got the made for racing Aston Martin parked across the front of him there. We can see if we can get an alternative camera angle of his car, and we can indeed. In fact, he's further back there. He's not the car being obscured. That's Matthew Massey's car being obscured by Jack Barker's Aston Martin, and Jordan Butler currently parked up there in the pink and black Spectre racing car. But the 195 driver, he'll be happy with that thus far. And Tom Wheeler, who's currently the third fastest of your club drivers, he makes his way out of Red Gate. Jake Martin rejoining there after a bit of a rally cross trip to the outside of the corner, and Wheeler rolling his way down the hill at the moment. The spark's flying for the undertrad, that Ford Mustang GT3. Well, we look forward to seeing what he can do, because he's on course for potentially his best qualifying performance of the season thus far. And meanwhile, Grant Miller, only full fastest in club at the moment. However, we normally see some of his best laps come out right towards the end of qualifying, so don't rule this man out of taking pole position in club yet, or at least putting himself right towards the very front of the club class, because he has got to find a bit more time and pace out there. But as he makes his way through the hairpin, well, in fact, it's the perfect time to get an on-board lap, ladies and gentlemen. And who better to get an on-board lap with than the man going onto it, and that is Grant Miller as he takes his way up towards Redgate. So onwards he goes then in towards the opening braking zone, braking about 100 metres from corner apex down to second gear, trying to lay apex as much as possible and let the car carry him around as he now goes flat out in towards Hollywood. Flat out for turn number 2, but as he heads down the hill, you'll notice here it's completely blind as you drop through the corners, through the craner curves of 3, and into the old hairpin, braking hard, about 120 metres from corner apex at turn number 4. Smooth line there from Grant Miller as he now makes his way through Starkeys and up towards Schwann's and then McLean's. Schwann's the left-hander, where you stay all the way out to the left to open up McLean's right-hander at turn number 7. And again, all about carrying the momentum here as he drops to second gear, now makes way up into Coppice Bend. Completely blind as he goes onto the brakes, holding third gear initially, but drops to second, runs a little bit deep into the corner to set up a later exit apex, and now Miller makes his way down the back stretch and onwards towards the S as he goes. Now here, of course, we would go right if we're going on the National Loop, but it's the Grand Prix Loop, so he'll brake about 120 minutes from corner apex, left into right he goes, cutting his way straight through the chicane and down towards the Melbourne hairpin. Now coming downhill, looks to his left for his brake mark. It will be the start of the entry curve that he'll use as his marker. Braking approximately 140 metres from corner apex, down to first gear, and now stamps the throttle and blasts his way up towards Goddard's. And this will be the last corner. Back-to-back hairpins here as he brakes for a corner he cannot see. And then suddenly drops into the corner in first gear, and just to be very patient on getting on the throttle. Then once the rear's bitten and has got around, off he goes then Miller to the timeline. And what a smooth lap from Grant Miller, no doubt about it. Is an improvement of a lap. Not quite, but he is close to his previous best, and therefore he's trying to go just that little bit quicker. A 27.167, but his previous best, a 26.938. Still 5 minutes to go in the session. Now, we do say hello to Peter Holt there in the YouTube chat. And well, Peter's saying, make sure you shout out Tim Probert because, well, did 180 laps of Le Mans yesterday and today intended its P2 run in GT3. He's an absolute machine. Indeed, Tim is an absolute machine, to be fair. And well, we have had the Majors 24 Hours of Le Mans over the course of this weekend, a week ahead, of course, of the real life 2026 rendition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans in real life. And what we can tell you, ladies and gents, is whilst it may not be an iRacing officially hosted event, it is, in a way, the official 24 Hours of Le 2001 as hosted on iRacing. And, well, a lot of our drivers have jumped straight from racing at Le Mans to racing at Donington Park. And I suspect there's going to be a lot of very tired eyes, arms and legs in these cars. And those who have not taken part in the 24 Hours Le Mans may be feeling a bit more comfortable in the car. But Tim Probert, definitely a warrior out there, no doubt about it. And currently 6th place overall, or what translates into 5th place in the Pro class in this qualifying session. And the McLaren driver waiting to go back out once again if he decides to do so. As we do, it's a bit of a hesitation there coming out the pit lane from Stephen Wilkinson. And I think, well, is he just checking something out in the car? Something's not right. He's going to tow back to his pit box there. But meanwhile, Alexander Winmark makes his way onwards. We're so good, of course, to have Peter tuning in today. And he is in his car. He is here. However, he's decided that he's done enough laps for now. But I wonder if we'll see Peter go back out there a little bit later. But if not, given us 4 minutes to go, he'll be starting 20th at best. And that would translate into 6th place in the Interclass. For more lap times coming in, we just had an improvement from Kyle Ryan, his Ferrari 296, and well, the Scotsman now moving up to 11th place once again. And Kilo, meanwhile, has not improved as he comes across the line. Casper Brotner, meanwhile, has, and the Mercedes AMG for old dudes in cars, and well, decides to go straight on there. Redgate, I think he was having a thought of two minds there. I think part of him said go even quicker, another part of him said no, cool it down and give it one last turn of the lap. Well, either way, well, he's decided in the end to invalidate that lap. He's only going to get one more chance this, perhaps two, depending on the time available to him. Now, do keep in mind that whilst normally we would have overtime in this qualifying session, we don't, unfortunately, for the purposes of the Donington Park circuit. That is a technical limitation imposed upon us here on iRacing due to the fact to be able to accommodate up to 60 cars here, 60 that is, not 16, at Donington Park's Grand Prix circuit. We do have to run our lobby in a slightly different format. We have to run it in a heat format, which makes the simulator think there are 2 races when there's actually only 1 today. We promise you it's only a 60-minute race, and therefore it does mean we lose the ability to hold overtime in qualifying. So when that clock goes to 0, that's it. If a driver is on a lap, they cannot finish it. We take the previous best set lap by each and every driver, and that's how we set the grid for our one and only race here to wrap up the season. But Adam Watson, and finding an even faster middle sector in Sector 3, going on to 23.55. And we'll put you in the frame of mind there. Everyone else lapping in what is the very high 23s. The next best being Harvey Wheeler's 23.66. As he heads towards the end of his current lap, he's going to have one last turn of the circuit. And Thomas Noakes right now only a place above him. So for Wheeler, this is looking a lot better as he runs slightly wide out the final corner. As he does so, he goes on to his last final lap. And let's jump on board him as he heads towards Redgate. So onto the brakes he goes here, coming all the way down to second gear. And as he does so, as late as he dares, let this car be light. He will also have nice warmed up tyres, so he can go full attacking Aston Martin. Down the hill through turn number 2 and in towards 3. You can see here taking it very tight through the apex of 2 to open up 3. And now very sharp over to the left-hand side to open up the old hairpin. But goes a little bit deep under braking. That unsettles his line. That's going to cost him about 2 tenths. He makes his way all the way up towards what will be Schwann's and then McLean's. And coming into McLean's now, tries to compensate here by going very late. Mounts the curb high. It does cause the rear to slightly flick wide. But to be fair to Wheeler, he gets it tamed through Coppice he goes. And as he comes through the right hand at a turn at number 8, pound his way out. A bit of understeer creeps in onto the exit curb. And Wheeler right now makes his way down towards the chicane. And we're a lovely lap so far as Mikey Stewart jumps up to 3rd place. So Wheeler gets demoted down to 4th. But now throwing himself in towards the chicane here. He won't be thinking about what Stewart's done. He'll be looking to respond himself as he gets ready now for the hairpin of Melbourne. As he goes onto the brakes, what's it going to be this time? Well, the answer is it's not going to be as good as his previous lap here, and Wheeler in fact seems to be only matching his previous best in sectors 1 and 2. Sector 3 has not been as good, so going through the final corner, coming through Goddard's hairpin, well, what's Wheeler going to do here? He decides to cut it very late, and I think he may have actually set himself up for one last lap. But the problem is he's not going to realise, I think, until too late he is not going to have access to that extra lap due to limitations that we do have on our lobby here today. But as he heads on through, he does not improve. Meanwhile, Casper Brotner moves up to 9th place. There's some more time to be found by some of our drivers, and well, a lot of our drivers have decided to come into pit lane as well. We do have in the pit lane Martin Kenyon, the club original pole sitter, also Hayden Young, Nathan Anstice and Jack Barker, and we do say hello to Melanie Young there, who says let's go send it, Team Hayden, Tim and Peter, and good luck to all drivers. And that's Hayden's mum and dad messaging, and well, good evening to you, Mr. and Mrs. Young, very happy to have you tuning in, and well, Hayden definitely looking okay so far today. He's got a lot of work to do if he wants to take that crown off of Mikey Stewart, who's definitely putting an absolute monster lap, it would seem. But ladies and gentlemen, with the clock going to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, well, qualifying is complete, and that will be that for the laps they can set. And well, we now look to the scenic view here as all drivers get themselves set to go racing. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if a few drivers were caught out a little bit by the fact they weren't going to get the overtime lap in. They were warned, of course, the fact that it's a slightly different session format. But, of course, now we have our 5-minute warm-up period. And this is always a great opportunity for drivers to get the right setup in the car if they do need to change the fuel out, if they do need to change the tyres, and also some other particulars. Some drivers do, of course, run more aggressive setups when they do go into qualifying than they do racing, whereby tyre life is less of a concern, and you want the most aggressive car you can. You want a very twitchy car in qualifying, so that way it comes around through these corners as quickly as they can. But as I roll the way onwards, Peter Holt saying there, baby is in bed, let's go racing. And to explain what he means by that, ladies and gentlemen, is Peter out of the circuit right now? Because I think the camera should be put on him. And well, I don't think he is. I do believe he is a dad of, I'm not sure if it's 1 or 2, I think it's a dad of 1. However, normally what ends up happening is in the practice and sometimes a good part of the qualifying session, depending on what series he's competing in and which way it goes, he's normally having to put his little one into bed. Because understandably, youngsters, particularly when they are babies or just growing up, normally bedtimes, as many a parent will know, sometime around 7 o'clock in the evening to 8 o'clock in the evening. That's normally the window in which a youngster goes to bed, and understandably he's normally having to put his little one to bed and then jump in the car to put some qualifying laps in. He definitely is a hero of a father, is Holt, no doubt about it, and we're very grateful to have Peter on this grid. He is one of our stars. He may not have captured what is the wins this season, but he's definitely captured a few hearts out there. As meanwhile, Jordan Butler makes his way on around. And the Spectre Racing Feet SimWorks driver, well, difficult qualifying session for some, but not necessarily for him. He looks quite quick in qualifying. Can he potentially put himself back on the podium today? As we do say hello to Mikhail Avasek, and good evening to you, good sir. I hope you're doing well and you've had a good weekend. And we're, of course, part of the Inox Motorsport outfit. And we always love to see Mikhail in the YouTube chat. If he's not out on the grid, he's definitely been one of those drivers. So I can tell you one thing, if he's not winning the race, he's definitely winning the eyesight of everyone with the incredible liveries he puts together for the Inox Motorsport team. And well, if he's not considered making liveries for some of our other teams out there, I definitely think he might want to consider going into business with it one day. And that is not me suggesting you should start a business there, Mikhail, unless you already have one. But of course, it's always a fault, perhaps. But as Jack Parker makes his way around in the Made for Racing Sir Bottle Job machine, livery made by himself, and indeed, Jack spending painstaking time putting the livery together on his cars. Not a livery designer by trade, but definitely loves the liveries he puts together on his machinery. And well, if you want a little bit of an intriguing fact, if I remember correctly, and Jack's going to correct me about this if I get this wrong after today's broadcast, I do believe he originally conceived the prototype design of this livery in the livery editor of Gran Turismo Sport or Gran Turismo 7 on the PlayStation consoles, and then essentially replicated it for the purposes of iRacing. And indeed, his background in the sim racing space is from Gran Turismo, but then he's made his way to a set of course of competizione and then settled on iRacing. And well, in his own words, he just finds that iRacing really doesn't fit the bill. But as he makes his way into pit lane, we do look to David Pilcher, and well, the Simcast Racing UK driver. Well, he'll be definitely looking to try and end the season on that grand high, perhaps break his way back into the top 10 in the club class in the championship standings. He's got a good chance of doing it, should he secure some very valuable points. Now, what can we expect here in terms of our 1 hour race to end the season? Beyond, of course, the big question marks on the championship. Well, this Donington Park circuit is one that's all about flow. So therefore, if anybody has a poor start to this race and has a poor run for the opening 2 to 3 corners, you could expect that come the end of the first lap, we may see drives drop a long way down the order. But battles as well, you can go too wide practically anywhere here at Donington Park, but there's some places you don't go too wide. For example, coming through Hollywood and into the crane occurs before the old hairpin, unless you and your rival are both willing to significantly back off when doing so. And also going through Schwann's in towards McLean's, it's not always easy to go for a move, but if you're brave enough to do it, you can normally go around the outside of a rival to get the move done. But we can expect battles on the circuit, and we can expect some major moves in the pit lane. And fuel saving and tyre management could really make a big difference to some drivers they find themselves in a pack. Everyone itching to go racing, no doubt about it. Harvey Wheeler none more so. The youngster today for Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing, looking to try and bring home the crown. Definitely some would say he's earned the hard way, although there has been a bit of luck on his side with the difficulties of Thomas Noakes' Ferrari at Suzuka and Magny-Court, whereby he was forced to tow to the pits due to an engine failure of the car, but he was able to get back out there in the end, albeit a lap down, and Noakes having to salvage points. But of course, the shoe was on the other foot last time out, and for Wheeler things went wrong. For Noakes things went a little bit better after the two of them had a big bit of contact at the Road Atlanta circuit. And here today, well, is it going to be Harvey Wheeler's championship crown, or will it be Noakes'? And we will provide you with updated provisional standings at the end of today's broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll keep you up to date with the Drivers' Championship lead battles all the way through, because without further ado, as the clock goes to 0, it is time to head to the grid for the final time this season, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for our season finale, our Donington Decider, in round 10 of 10 in the UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship Season 18, as hosted by SimRacing International. It's time to conclude the Sunday Showdown. And so as our drivers make their way to the grid for the final time this season, this is how they'll all line up at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. And as we can see, Adam Watson taking pole position by a 10th in the end for Altitude 3M Esports, head of Thomas Noakes at MKSimSport. On row number 2, behind the pros, it'll be your Interpol sitter, Mikey Stewart for Axis SimSports with SimCoach. 90s all on the up here to try and take that crown ahead of Hayden Young. Harvey Wheeler starts in 4th place for Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler 89. All he needs to do is shadow Noakes today, and the crown will be his. Anton Kilo starts in 5th place at MKSimSport. Can he potentially get ahead of Wheeler early on and pose a threat, with Thomas Pugh joining on that 3rd row for Axis SimSports with SimCoach. On row at number 4, it'll be Tim Probert for Send It Racing. Watch out for him. He'll be looking to end the season on a high, and, well, matching his podium results the last couple of rounds if he can, perhaps take that win if he dares to dream to do so. But the Send It Racing driver will be in the company of your 2nd place Interstar to Site Anti for UKSimRacing Hamilton. There'll be Casper Brotner for Old Dudes in Cars Vintage and Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars Amnesia, the sister teams together completing the top 10. And behind the 2 pros, it's another 2 pros of Steve Hobbs for SimCoach and Carl Roy for Axis SimSports for SimWorks. We then do have in 13th place your club pole sitter of Martin Kenyon, and well, this is the way to start it off a pit step race if he wants to make that 1,000 score. And Hayden Young joins on the 7th row there in 3rd of the Interclass. Behind the Senate Racing drive is Nathan Anstis for UKSimRacing Hamilton ahead of Jack Barker for Made Racing. Then we do have Hendrik Zilk for Old Dudes and Cars Amnesia and Max Wheeler for Verso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing on row 9. Completing your top 20, it's John Butler for Spectre Racing Feet Simworks, 2nd of your club drivers, and Pete Holt rounds off that top 20 for Send It Racing Bulls. 21st, it's Tom Wheeler ahead of none other Grant Miller, the Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing driver, just out qualifying the Phoenix Red Scotland driver by what was only 7 thousandths per second. And it'll be Jake Muttett starting 23rd, Phoenix Racing Blue ahead of Alexander Vingmart for Beta Frost. 25th, it's Ryan Clark ahead of Luke Sherlock, the Spectre Racing driver outpacing the Darkwing Racing Machinery, with Matthew Massey for Spectre Racing ahead of Jordan Maymar for Simcast Racing UK, and his teammates of Stephen Wilkinson and David Pilcher completing that top 30. 31st, Oliver Singset for Beta Frost ahead of James Conley for UKSimRacing Norris, and there'll be Daniel Payes and David Young completing your 34 starting order. But ladies and gentlemen, as they come out the final quarter, it's time to go green flag racing. It's away we go for the final time this season. As quick as that, we are green. As they roar the way down towards turn 1, Adam Watson gets a good start. But look at Mikey Stewart, has already leapt ahead of Thomas Noakes on the inside there in towards turn 1. 2 wide they come through, and the MKSimSport driver and try to hold it around the outside. And right now, Noakes absolutely committed to the bit here, wanted to keep this move together. As we look to the blimp cameras, they all roar the way down the hill for the first time. And as they do, all the drives safely on through the opening few corners. And well, that long lineage of GT3s right now all going through. And well, everyone seems to be safe on through the opening corners. Although Mikey Stewart's into the grass. That is Stewart, you can see a speck on the grass there. Oh, there's been a big incident as we come down to the closer pictures. Hendrik Zilk has been called out, I believe, coming out to the old hairpin. And suddenly a few drivers have been sent down the order. That's Zilk in the rear of the picture, and I think with him is another Old Dudes and Cars machine, but I'm not quite sure which one. I'll try and get up down that when we can, ladies and gentlemen. But meanwhile, as the rest of the field makes its way onwards, with plenty of fighting going on, including Alexander Vingmark, who's had a monster start to this race, in 4th place in the club class, attacking Tom Wheeler and Jordan Butler early on, and Vingmark's absolutely been lightning quick. But look at the foreground of the camera. That is going to be a big squeeze there between Pete Holt and Nathan Anstis. And Pete Holt getting his elbows out there and forcing Nathan Anstis to have to back off. And now Anstis has to go defensive versus Max Wheeler. Well, goodness me, definitely getting very fighty and tighty there as they come through. And now in towards Melbourne. And that's going to be Nathan Anstis having to worry about Max Wheeler trying to go around the outside of him. him. And right now, well, I'll tell you one thing, Nathan Anst is here. Whilst he may be absolutely surrounded by drivers who are trying to pick on him, he's not going to be picked on for much longer because he tells Max Wheeler, no, the answer is you stay behind me. But meanwhile, we look back behind and there is Mikey Stewart, the Axis in Sports with SimCoach driver, who has changed his car. In fact, he's gone from his BMW to the McLaren for this season fly. He did have the one car change available to him, so he's decided to use it literally at the 11th hour. And well, it worked out in qualifying, but it hasn't worked out so far in this race. We'll get a replay of what happened to him shortly. But up the inside of John Butler he goes, takes 17th, but he's got some more work to do. But what it does mean is that in the interclass, St. Anthony is now the class leader, and Hayden Young in 8th place is second in the class, as you can see there. But he wants that win for Send It Race to give himself the best possible chance of the crown. But after 1.5 laps, it is Adam Watson who leads ahead of Thomas Noakes, who is 4.5 tenths behind. But look at the rear of the picture, Anton Keelan to defend hard here versus Harvey Wheeler. He's found his way ahead of the three-wheeler racing driver, but now he's got to hold him off and enable Noakes to open up a gap, and then Noakes has got to go hunt him. But remember, if Noakes does not win the race, well, 4th place will be enough for Harvey Wheeler to take the crown. He needs what is to take the win and for Wheeler to finish 4th or lower. So therefore, for Harvey Wheeler, take 3rd place, he's guaranteed it either way. But meanwhile, beside the top 4, we do have St. Anthony there, closed up behind. The interleader braking very late and find out very quickly that they're all queuing up as Tim Probert puts his nose up the inside. And the Welshman there, well, not too upset about that, given the fact he's not fighting with the pros here for class position. And wants to come into the braking zone. Probert and St. Anthony, well, Anthony tries to come back at him here, looking up the inside ear towards Goddard's. So, in fact, change that fact. St. Anthony got the pit between his teeth. To be fair, he enjoys a good scrap. And we'd have Thomas Pugh just behind in 7th place with Hayden Young following. And it's 3 seconds back to Steve Hobbs as they complete lap number 2. He's in 9th ahead of Kyle Roy, who completes your top 10. And Martin Kenyon is your club leader in 11th place currently. But back to the battling because we still have Probert and Anthony side by side. Tim Probert got up the inside there in towards Redgate corner as he tried to go around the outside to inside here, coming in towards the crater curves, but it puts to the outside of the old hairpin, and Probert will get that move done at long last. And now St. Anthony's going to run out of momentum, and Thomas Pugh's going to look around the outside at Starkey's. And we'll get that move done there. Will Pugh in the Mercedes has got the greater momentum and all done there and wrapped up. So now it's going to be St. Anthony under pressure with Hayden Young, the 2 Porsche drivers, battling for the lead of the interclass at the back of that pro pack. But as we leave them for a moment, we come back to Luke Sherlock, who after Alexander Vigmark had sprung forward, will now it's to turn to Luke Sherlock here to go on the attack with Grant Miller and Matthew Massey. They're still following just behind, and we can see a bit further back James Conley finds himself surrounded by David Pilcher in front and Daniel Payes behind. And in the past, they have raced together, have Payes and Conley as teammates and also as rivals in this series, and they're rivals once again this season, albeit Daniel Payes being in the interclass now, whereas Conley is in the club class. And as they come down towards the chicane, well, we see a potential move here from Conley on Pilcher. He's going to go for it. That'll be up the inside. Bit of contact between the two of them. It forces Pilcher slightly wide. However, Conley does not capitalise on it. He decides to back off the throttle there to make sure they all survive. It's going to be 3 wide on the braking. In fact, 4 wide here as they all coming down. And David Young goes all in. Is that a bit tight? It is. The end. He has to back off there. No, otherwise he would have speared into the side of Pilcher's car. But then he gets it stopped, and Daniel Payes taps him on the rear, and they all somehow survive it. But in the end, what a brave move from David Young. It didn't quite work out. David Pilcher defending hard, but he goes way too deep into Goddard's, and the camber of the road pushes him wide. And as he carries on, well, backing off there, I think trying to get the car back together, and it does almost catch out David Young quite a bit, but Young does get ahead, and Daniel Payes tucks in behind with none other than where's the lap down car there, Casper Brotner tapping on for good measure. But hold up a second, Daniel Payes has just towed to the pit lane, so I'm not quite sure what's happened to Payes unless he's picked up some damage to the car that we haven't seen. Perhaps he did hit the rear of David Pilcher's car as it slowed down. But meanwhile, going back to the fight for 3rd, overall in pro, that's Harvey Wheeler up the inside of Coppins Bend versus Kilo. And well, as we ride aboard the Flying Finn, and trying to come back here, it is Ferrari, and well, the battle of the 2 turbo sporting machines. And right now, Anton Keller looking around the outside, but being crowded to the curb there. And right now, Harvey Wheeler is getting his elbows out as much as possible here. He is really saying to Anton Keller, I know what you're trying to do. I do not like it. And as they come in towards the hairpin, there's nothing illegal with what's going on, but that's definitely going to be a bit barely legal there. It turns out late on the brakes, Tim Probert has gone. And well, as he makes his way out to speed now, the Send It Racing driver living up to the team name. As he looks around the outside, he just wants to get through the ball right now. Wants to go hunting after the podium. 3 wide, so Anthony on the inside, and Son, it's all chop and change here. They're trading places like they're on the stock market floor as they make the way on to another lap. And well, Anton Keller back ahead of Harvey Wheeler, and well, I think that was the intervention there. Tim Probert that's helped out. Keller get back ahead, and now St. Anthony looking around the outside here for Redgate Bend. and it's absolutely brilliant racing between these drivers, no doubt about it. It's fast, it's furious, and it's absolutely on the limit. As they head on down the hill, they'll all go into single file formation for a brief moment. Meanwhile, Mikey Stewart attacking Jake Muttett here to try and take fourth place back in the interclass. Well, making some very good progress is the 233 McLaren driver. Looking around the outside here in the white and red axis is what the sim coach McLaren. You've got a battle of McLarens. Pete Holt wants to get involved here, and well, as Stewart gets a better run, Holt goes very wide. He'll pick up an off track for that. He may pick up a slowdown if he's picked up speed. And while Mikey Stewart's still fighting hard with Muttett, who's not giving in. And Jake Muttett right now doing an incredible job fighting, but Stewart dives up the inside in towards the corner, and in doing so, he's going to take that place off of Muttett through McLeod. Into cockpits they go. Will Muttett do the same in return? The answer is no. He stays back and lets the place burn instead. And well, reason being, I suspect, the more they fight, the more likely they're going to push themselves towards Wheeler, Holt, Butler, and Vinkmark, and it's the last thing that either driver wants. But Muttett gets a better run here, coming down towards the Essex chicane. But going defence there, Mikey Stewart's not going to let that go, and I think that goes to show you that Muttett is the quicker driver of some of these corners. But Mikey Stewart right now just wants it even more, given the championship is on the line. But as Pete Holt looks up the inside of Tom Wheeler, who found his way past afterwards the excursion of Holt going out to the old hairpin. Well, Wheeler now drops back in. He's got John Butler and Alexander Vingmark for close company. A bit further back, Stephen Wilkinson and Jordan Maymar together. But I think the SimCast Racing UK drivers both trying to keep it cool and comfortable at the moment as they head towards the end of this lap. But as they do, we head back to the start, ladies and gents, for a replay or two, and particularly what happened to Mikey Stewart. So as we went green flag racing, this was coming down through a crane of curves for the first time, and Stewart came through the hairpin. Cold tyres took a lot of the apex curve, and it sent the car sideways. Did incredibly well to catch that. That could have got it completely round, and well for Mikey Stewart as he got himself back on, almost slipped off the road again, and well, did very well to rejoin as safely as he possibly could. But what happened to Darren Sharples and Casper Brotner? It was two old dudes in cars machines coming together, and as he came out the corner, well, that was going to be the Mercedes there, and Casper Brotner getting it wrong, and I think trying to react to Stewart, and in the end did the rear left tyre onto the grass, and Darren Sharples having to be in the right place at the wrong time to be collected, and the two old dudes in cars drivers being caught up there, but I'm sure they'll forgive each other about it immediately. They normally do. Matthew Massey also had a bit of difficulty going through the old hairpin for the first time of asking. And I expect for the Spectra racing try, it was because of what happened earlier on. And indeed it was. So in the end, he decided to duck to the inside of Starkey's to take evasive action, only to realise he didn't need to. So he had to back off there to make sure he didn't cut the corner and gain a legal time. But then we had this for Hendrik Zilka right at the end of lap 1. And this is where it all went wrong for the old dudes in cars Amnesia drive. Back then side by side with Luke Sherlock. 2 wide they came in towards the S's. And in the end, it was a big move up the inside there from Grant Miller. And it sent Zilka around. And Zilka had to tow as a result of the contacts. The damage made. And here's a race all around. And Oliver Svingset, the base of driver we didn't really talk too much about earlier on. Indeed, it was his teammate Vinkmark who took all the glory in qualifying. But Svingset went into the corner. And a bit of a tap there with the 288. So that sent it around there. And very unfortunate between the pair. And well, for Svingset, he was able to get it turned back around. That was Daniel Pais he came into contact with. But for Svingset, of course, a bit more work to be done. Oh, and that was Ryan Clark having a bit of an adventure. Going a bit too wide there coming out of Melbourne. But ladies and gentlemen, with that, we come back to your live racing. And as we do, we'll still more fighting to come. I think we haven't had a bit of an incident between Butler, Miller and Massey quite recently, so we will come back to that shortly. Hold up. Who's that on the grass there? I didn't quite see who it was, but somebody's on the grass, and well, they're having a bit of a picnic. Not the picnic they want. Was that David Young? I don't think so. I think that was Tom Wheeler. Yes, it's Wheeler who's coming back on for reverse over rapid by Freewheeler Racers. The camera pans to him. The 133 driver's had a bit of a trip, and now he's got to try and recover from it. But meanwhile, as 10 minutes is complete, we've still got another 50 plus the final lap to go, and Adam Watson still leads this race. He comes towards lap number 8, 6 tenths ahead of Thomas Noakes. But right now, as things currently stand, well, with Noakes in second and Harvey Wheeler in 4th place, it is currently the situation whereby Harvey Wheeler would be your champion in the pro class. Noakes needs that first place off of Watson. Well, he needs Wheeler to fall down to 5th place in pro or lower. But meanwhile, speaking of helping fall down to 5th place overall, that's Sight Anti driving up the inside there into Redgate Bend. And well, as he does so, Harvey Wheeler tries to cut back at him. Tim Probert now looks at this and thinks, okay, but they're going to fight. How do I get involved? And keep in mind, of course, now, a lot of these drivers, such as Tim Probert, they'll be thinking about their own championship campaigns, and they'll also be thinking about essentially their own selfish gains rather than worrying about who's going to be having an impact on the championship other drivers. The only thing they won't want to do is essentially have an incident with one of the championship contenders, because of course that always makes you feel guilty, and it always does lead to a bit of finger pointing after the race, no matter what, because when the emotions are this high and when the championship's on the line, well, understandably any incident between drivers just becomes that little bit more scrutinised by comparison. That's not saying the stewards suddenly put extra priority on it, but we as individuals, as drivers, we've all been there, whereby when we're in the championship fight or we get involved in the championship fight unexpectedly, suddenly tempers really do go to what is the volcano levels of heat. But as Tim Brobeck right now tries to put the heat on Wheeler, he's a bit too far back to do so and has to wait. And meanwhile, his teammate of Hayden Young still follows, but for Hayden, of course, his game plan's got to be to get past Sight Ansley, but he needs to do a bit more. He's currently second in class, and well, with Mikey Stewart still chased after Jack Barker. If things were to finish as they currently stand, well, Young would be your champion with Stewart in fourth place. However, Barker right now could be kingmaker today in the interclass, depending on what way it goes, but Stewart is very gradually catching up to Barker, so Barker's definitely going to have some pressure on him within the next few laps as it unfolds between them. Meanwhile, David Young and James Connolly, they continue to fight each other. And Young trying to go around the outside after his very adventurous four wide earlier on, which didn't quite work out, but definitely provided a bit of a spectacle. And well, it was a good call on it to try and go for it, but in the end, just coming a little bit too hot and had to park the car on apex to avoid it, causing what could have been a domino collision effect. Well, good run there coming out of Goddard's, and well, he's going to have a really good run up towards Redgate. But that Ferrari, James Connolly, able to get the power down much more rapidly compared to the BMW M4. We normally see it's the other way around. Normally the BMW M4 outpaces the Ferrari, but here at Donington, it does seem as though, well, David Young not quite getting the best run there, or James Connolly getting the mother of all runs, and will stays behind now as he heads down the hill. And it's great to see this battling going on in the club class. Indeed, we've got battles everywhere you look at the circuit. The it's not just about that up front, but right now Young's still trying to find a way in if he can, as he looks to hook onto the back of Connolly, and up the road is Alexander Vingmark. We'd like an opportunity to get involved with, and these two, of course, clear of David Pilcher, who sits a little bit further behind. But as they come off of the corner, well, meanwhile, we do have a big question mark of what exactly happened earlier on between several of our club drivers. And here's a replay, ladies and gentlemen, to explain. Now, this was Matthew Bassett. In fact, a whole host of them were recovering. Well, in fact, this was the aftermath of Massey coming a bit too hot there. I think that's mistimed brakes rather than any malice meant. But unfortunately, Alexander Vingmark in the heat of the moment may not be feeling that. But I think the Spectre Racing driver trying to come in hot on the brakes to regain places with everyone going so slowly, and immediately gave the place back there. That's great to see. Massey 9, he came in a bit too hot and will decide to give it back. But what happened to trigger this off? This was the incident. Now, Jordan Butler at the time chasing after Tom Wheeler. So under braking they went. Wheeler had already had some difficulty. And as they came on through, well, Butler in the end found Vingmark on the inside of him. So that's the contact. Vingmark parked up and essentially slowly made his way onwards to let Butler retake the place. But then suddenly everyone came to the scene in the instant. Grant Miller did well to avoid. And, well, Matthew Massey, he had not been caught up in it. But unfortunately, he came in a bit too hot there. And Alexander Vingmark been biffed sideways. So that explains all. And why suddenly Jordan Maymar has gone all the way from what was 7th in the club class to what was at the time, or I was going to about say, all the way back up into 2nd place. But I believe he's been involved in an incident of his own, unless I'm mistaken, or perhaps I'm getting Maymar and Butler confused with each other, which I do have a habit of doing so every so often. And in fact, no, we were right, and I think we've had a bit of an incident happen to Jordan Maymar, and well, I think here is the explainer as to why, ladies and gentlemen. So this was Jordan Maymar at the time running in 2nd in the club class. The SimRacing UK driver coming on down into hairpin, and we just lost him to the ether. So Maymar having a discontinuity and has had to essentially, well, he's had to retire from the race. Maymar is out there due to that. So he was up into 2nd place. I thought my eyes were not deceiving me, and it's all gone very much wrong for him. So that's heartbreak there for SimRacing UK. And their driver, who's a bit slow in qualifying, suddenly picking up the pace. But we must pick up the pace and go back to the front of the field, because Adam Watson, we look back for the rear of your leader for Altitude Freedom Esports, and there is pressure growing. That is Thomas Noakes right behind him. And Noakes right now still continue to attack. And Anton Keeler has broken away from Sight Ansley and Harvey Wheeler. So therefore, MK Sport currently looking for 2nd and 3rd on the pro podium. And that could be some huge points to them in the team's championship. And it could put them right back into the trophy spots right at the end of the season. But focus on what we've got on camera at the moment as we show you the class standings. Well, right now, Adam Watson getting the better run out the yeses. No doubt about it. He looks the happier of the drivers. But Thomas Noakes pushing hard here. 9. He needs that win to give himself every opportunity to take the crown away from Harvey Wheeler. But right now, Watson, of course, Probably the most challenging obstacle that you can have in front of you. A 3-time winner this season, and if it were not for what has been the yo-yo results that he's had at other rounds, well, it may have been the case where Adam Watson could have made it essentially a three-way fight for the crown, but it wasn't to be, as he goes on to lap number 12, and that gap holding station at half a second. He has had a bit more time. But looking at further back, as we do see Harvey Wheeler leading Sight Anstey and Tim Probert across the line. Well, this is the battle for fourth place overall at the moment, and critically fourth place in the pro class between Wheeler and Tim Probert, with Sight Anstey the interclass leader at the moment. Well, he's got a 2.5 second gap to this man, Hayden Young, who follows Thomas Pugh around, and Steve Hobbs, who we haven't really talked about today. He's currently running just behind it in 9th place there in the Sim Coach McLaren. And to be fair to Steve, he's doing a fantastic job so far. And lovely livery machine. Always looks iconic, the red and black Sim Coach machine. But right now just watching those in front of him and trying to stay on the pace. Trying to manage this race as best he can. It may come to him a little bit later on. Now, we do have some good news regarding Jordan Maymar. He has returned, how it was a technical issue with the car. So Maymar has gone a lap down, but we hope to see him back out there, continue his race all the way to the end. Meanwhile, Tom Wheeler here looking for a move up the inside. David Pilcher into turn 1. This will be for 9th place in club. Goes up the inside, a little bit of elbows out there, and the Aversa Rapid by Freewheeler Racing driver gets that done. I don't think David Pilcher really having a response. Alexander Vingmark, meanwhile, the Beta Ross Norwegian driver under pressure from the Briton of James Connolly for UKSimRacing. And the UKSimRacing Norris Drive looking around the outside, goes to the switchback. Vingmark sees it coming and just simply says, no, you don't. I've seen that one in textbooks. And, well, Indian completely parks on apex, going up towards Coppice Bend. And James Connolly having all the momentum bled out of that run. But you can see what Connolly was trying to do. It was a lovely line he took, but Vingmark immediately went, well, I'll just be a little bit slower for the corner then, and we can both slow down. And one going up towards the Etty chicane. That will bring David Young into the mix with him. You can see Young in the rear of the picture. And so it could be a change of foot between these drivers sooner rather than later. As Vingmark going defensive again, down towards Melbourne. And around the outside it goes Connolly. Does he get it done? And the answer is not quite yet, as they exit the bend in first gear. Both drivers now build up the speed here, but that Porsche, of course, better on the traction out of low speed corners. It's while the straights of rear engine rear wheel drive. And Connolly dives up the inside in towards Gollards. It's a bit of a nose in. He makes contact with Vingmark. It sends Vingmark around. And, well, you can see that David Young takes the wide line, and Connolly immediately puts on the brakes and to let Vingmark rejoin and not gain from it. So great awareness. And, well, Vingmark there flashing his headlights. So I don't think he's too pleased about it. But Connolly immediately getting the brakes on to make sure he didn't add to the instant. And was the coming towards Redgate Bend. They'll close up. And Connolly does give the place back there. And, well, they go racing once again. As soon as the nose is ahead, Connolly says, right, you're game again. And, well, always they go. Great race respect. But meanwhile, we come to Nathan Anstis, the UKSimRacing Hamilton driver, who has Max Wheeler for close company. As we do look to your overall at the standings once again. They're fighting for 8th in pro and 10th overall. And Wheeler right now looking to go on the attack where he can. But the only problem is that he tried to go on the attack earlier on. He almost got ahead. Only for Nathan Anstis to find his way back ahead eventually. But it's always the game plan. These two are very equal pace in dry conditions typically. And Nathan Anstis has been a bit of a hero in wet weather conditions this season, with some absolute standout performances, including at Fuji. But here today in the dry, definitely not on the pace of leaders, but still enjoying their own little battle. But speaking of battles, and perhaps this one not as little by comparison, as we ride aboard with your second place man, Thomas Noakes, the MK Sport driver still hounding Watson. Now, understandably, at this point of the race, given we have completed the opening 20 minutes come the end of this lap, we're now starting to move into more strategic territory, and this is where the thought of pit stop starts to come in. Now, if you're Noakes, what you want to really do in this situation, as well as staying glued to the back of Watson, you want to pressure him as much as humanly possible. And, well, in doing so, what you end up doing, understanding you force Watson to have to drive a little bit harder, use a bit more fuel, and perhaps not save the tyres as much, perhaps overheat them a bit more. But how much is Noakes driving that car over the limit in order to do so? Is he not allowing himself the opportunity to save fuel of his own? Is he perhaps pushing harder by comparison? So Noakes right now, by pushing so hard, may actually be putting himself at risk of having a longer pit stop or potentially giving himself worse tyre life towards the end of the race. Remember, of course, that whilst they do the tyres and fuel simultaneously in the pit lane, the amount of fuel that's put in these cars is nowhere enough to cover a full tyre change. All 4 tyres being changed about 21 to 23 seconds, depending on how quickly they get the car up on the jacks and how quick the team work. But That does mean, of course, you're normally expecting 1 to 2 tyres being changed. It's normally a formula of 1 tyre for a lot of drivers, and it will normally be the most worn tyre. It'll be on the left-hand side because we are racing and they're clockwise circuits. There's more right-handers than left-handers, and in the case of the mid-engine rear-wheel drive Ferrari and McLaren, it'll normally be that rear left tyre. Meanwhile, for front-engine rear-wheel drive, such as the Aston Martin of Harvey Wheeler, it'll normally be that front left tyre that gets changed. If they need to change too, it will be both on one side. It won't be both on the front axle or both on the rear axle, because that will cause a huge grip difference to the car, and suddenly that's where mistakes can really start to happen. So strategically, the faults are starting to play out, and also the bigger faults, do you go early or do you go late or do you go somewhere in between? Because the undercut can be as powerful as the overcut, depending on the traffic you find out there and how much fighting you have to do. I suspect your top 10 overall will almost likely go for the overcut, not wanting to risk track position, particularly when you've got such a lively into midfield and also a very lively club midfield. But speaking of the head of that into midfield, it's Mikey Stewart has found his way past Jack Barker in recent history. And how exactly has he done that? Many of you may be wondering. This happened 3 laps ago on lap 12. Let's take a look. So this was the pair making the way in towards the S's, and as they did so, Jack Barker came on out, and well, not as good a run. In fact, he came on down there, went to the inside. I wonder if he did pick up a slowdown or perhaps just a poor run, and saw the writing was on the wall, and thought, you know what, it's not worth fighting while the championship contenders, not because he's trying to help Mikey take the crown, but simply because he respects the fact his race really is with Cy Anthony and also with Jake Muttett, who still quite close behind at the time, as you saw in the replay camera there. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's back to your live racing. As we do coming back, so Stewart trying to pull away, but Barker's still staying with him, to be fair. And meanwhile, well, that battle for the overall and pro lead, it is getting closer. Noakes now only 2 tenths behind, looking around the outside immediately, goes to the switchback. And as he does so, well, Noakes right now glued to the back of Watson, tries to go up the inside to Coppice, just a little bit too far back to adventure it, but he definitely wants to right now. He's getting eager to make the move, and I think Thomas Noakes might be going for a much more aggressive strategy than we normally see. Normally, we see him play it quite conservatively. I think his thought process is today none other than I need that lead first and foremost. I don't care how I get it, I've got to get it where I can. And Tranquilla, meanwhile, running in third. Well, he's done his job being the rear gunner to Thomas Noakes. However, with Harvey Wheeler 2.5 seconds behind, there's not much else he can do right now other than be on standby, than potentially to give up his position if needed for the championship. Although I don't think that's perhaps going to be needed at the moment. And the only other thing he could potentially do, if he can catch up to the 2 leaders, is perhaps go for an alternative strategy in order to see if he can take the lead of the race, or scuffle what is Adam Watson's strategy. That's the only other thing you can do with the second man in the team. And Tequila not fighting for the championship honours, given the way his results have gone, so therefore he can be used as a bit of a resource for Noakes' campaign. But right now he's not in the place to really be used beyond making sure Harvey Wheeler, who you see in the rear of the camera, and we now focus on, stays behind and doesn't move into third. Because should he get into third place, then presuming he holds it all the way to the end, he is guaranteed the crown regardless of where Noakes finishes, unless there's any post-round penalties in effect. And just to remind you that whilst we do, over the course of the first 9 rounds of the championship, give licence points to drivers on their SimRacing International licence for the series, in the season finale, should they pick up any what would be licence points, for instance, it is points deductions for their championship points. So that's why drivers need to be on their best behaviour all the way through to the end of the season, because you don't want to lose the championship through what is having the stewards book thrown at you right at the end after you've won it on the road, only to lose it in the stewards room afterwards. As Pete Holt chase after Jake Muttett, still staying nice and close at the moment, but not able to find a way in the fight for 5th place between them. Oh, goodness me, that's Oliver Sphinxet getting it wrong. That's on the exit of Coppice down the back straight, and the Betos driver there has taken a very long trip wide. Well, I'm not quite sure what's happened to him, but as he goes to rejoin, we've also had some difficulty for Kyle Roy earlier in the race, and this is what happened to Roy all the way back on lap 10. And this was the Extra Sports with SimWorks drivers recently towed to the pits as well. We'll come through the crater curves into the old hairpin. The rear of the car let go there under braking before he even turned into the corner. So I think the weight transfer there, catching the car out and just rolled into the barrier. And that was a quick tow to the pits. There was no way that was coming back to life without a tow, given the damage he would have done to the rear axle. And it would have dropped the entire car. Unfortunately there for Ryan, I think he's had a subsequent mistake, which has seen him go even further back down the order. But meanwhile, back to your live pictures. The sun definitely been obscured by cloud at the moment. And the 2 leaders still push each other absolutely hard. But what's happening elsewhere? Well, Peter Holt here getting a better run coming out of the hairpin. From Goddard's down towards Redgate. Muttett defends on the inside. Holt looking around the outside here under braking. Here he goes. All the way on the lunge. But as you'll look to your right hand side, did he get it done versus Muttett? The answer is not quite. They'll be 2 wide now. As they come down with a pretty even here as they make their way through Hollywood in towards Craters. And as they get down the hill, we'll hold out on the outside. Can he hold it? You can see the bit of understeer. Mutt immediately gets the brakes on. And that's the point we were saying about earlier. When you're too wide for those corners, you've both got to back off. And Holt doesn't back off on the braking there in towards the old hairpin. And on that compromise exit line, he loses out once again. He's already had one trip to the grass there earlier on. And now he's made it a second. And that battle for 5th place rages on in the interclass for 15th overall. Holt being brave, but Mutt in the end playing it very smart and aware. And 9 in the end, he would get the place back if Holt had not accounted for the momentum change. So as a result, Mutt right now keeping his call for Phoenix Racing Blue. This now buys Jack Barker a 7-second gap in 4th place, and Mutt needs to beat him if he wants to steal away that 4th place in the Inter Championship. But as they get closer and closer towards the halfway point of this race, what else is happening further back? Well, Jordan Butler has got Grant Miller for growing company. Miller gaining a 10th a lap on average, and well, you can see there Grant Miller staying close after a bit of a disappointing qualifying performance compared to what he's used to this season. The Phoenix Racing bred driver having a very up and down at first 20 minutes of this race, going from what was starting in 4th place in class to dropping back and then rising all the way back up the ranks, and were aided perhaps a little bit by Jordan Maymar's difficulties, but at the same time as well was able to stay out of trouble when it all went wrong for so many drivers at the Melbourne hairpin in the club class. Still, that's the way the race has gone, and now he's got to try and see if he can move on. Meanwhile, Martin Kenyon, club leader, or leading the class comfortably at the moment, by quite a staggering margin, it must be said, for Pistep, raising a margin of almost 17 seconds at this time. And well, for Kenyon, all he needs to do now is keep it together, and if he does so, he'll be on course for what will be that final win of the season and over 1,000 points. It will be, essentially, if my memory is correctly, a grand total of 1,005 points to end this season on. He would break the 1,000 limit, and he would be the highest set points ever achieved by a driver in a championship campaign in the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship since its inception, all the best part of 4 years ago. In fact, I think we're coming up to 5 years now. This way the time has flown. But meanwhile, we look back to Nathan Anstis and Max Wheeler still fight each other. Still enjoying a good little ding-dong scrap, these two. Indeed, they've not been afraid of scrapping as they head up towards the hairpin again. But right now, Wheeler just cannot seem to find the final 5 yards to get in an attacking position. As just up the road, Tim Probert and Thomas Pugh. And here comes Pugh looking for a move. He's been waiting for this for some time. And as he comes out the corner, well, can he get it done? Not quite yet, but they send it racing drive, feeling the pressure. And Thomas Pugh right now definitely getting ready to pounce. So he's right aboard the front bumper on the 352 as they brake and compress their way downhill. And I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gents, when you drive down that hill on the simulator or in real life, the weight of the car all gets pushed towards the front under braking. It's an incredible feeling, and you feel that front left tyre, it just loads up so quickly with weight, and you can see it in the body language of the cars, the way they all pitch forward under braking down the old hairpin. But opposite me, well, the front end suddenly becomes incredibly light as you go over the hill, because you're essentially braking uphill, and then suddenly the road just flattens out entirely, so all that weight just gets dumped down onto the road. And Thomas Pugh right now really maximising the use of the weight there, and well, into the S's. It's not going to work out this time, but it's a good run through. Completely knocks what is the rubber barriers over. And well, the 352 driver right now matching the pace of Probert. Probert is not wilting under this pressure. What a great battle between these two. But speaking of battles unfolding, Holt versus Muttit, side by side they go. And well, Pete Holt does get ahead on the exit of Coppers. He finally gets that move done. He's been waiting for it, but in a change of strategy, Thomas Noakes into the pit lane with 31 minutes to go. This is early for MK Simsport. And I think this is to beat Adam Watson. They're gambling on this. No, they need to find a way in, because if not, right now it will go the way of this man, Harvey Wheeler, who will be promoted from 4th to 3rd. He is effectively running 4th in the Pro class currently, but it's all he needs to see that championship crown if we see that Noakes is not able to find his way into lead of the race. But as he comes out the pit lane, where does it put him? And the answer, it puts him into some clear track. He's 3.5 seconds behind Jack Barker. He has got, I believe, there the car of Jordan Maymar lapping around in front of him, albeit understandably Maymar is a lap down, so therefore he will have to yield the track position at some point. Although it's not Formula 1 blue flag rolls, we should point out, the lead lap driver is required to make an overtake, but it's the responsibility of the driver who's going a further lap down not to put up a fight, essentially. They're just to hold their race in line, and it is the lead lap driver who is to make the move. They can aid them, of course, the lap down driver, should they desire to, but there's no expectation for them to do so. So for Thomas Noakes, this could hurt him a little bit, as meanwhile, Jordan Maymar, I think, has got around there coming out of McLean's. And well, the Simcast Racing UK drivers having a day that's going from good to bad to disastrous to nightmare at this rate. And what exactly has happened to him, here's a quick replay. So this was headed through Schwann's in towards McLean's. Under braking, the BMW looked okay, but went very deep into the quad under braking. Went wide, tried to rejoin the car, snapped one way, he corrected it, and he overcorrected it the other way. And he went all around there. For the SimCast Racing team, it's a bit of a frustrating moment. But as he gets it back together, we also did have this a little bit earlier on. This was John Maymar passing Oliver Sphinxet. And what exactly happened to Sphinxet? And the answer is he had a connectivity issue, and I think it's had to tow back to the pit lane. I'm not quite sure what's happened there, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen. That's a bit of an odd one. They're in completely different parts of the circuit. But still, as that seems to be a bit of an error with regards to our timing information from earlier on. There's still more to come, no doubt about it. And that last lap from Adam Watson, a personal best and the fastest lap of the race, a 25.83. So he's responding to the actions, the strategy of Thomas Noakes. He's saying, right, if he's going to go for the undercut, I'm going to go longer and I'm going to pump out some monster laps. But Anton Kilo is also responding. That last lap from Kilo, it wasn't validated due to an off track, but it was a 25.85. He is pushing as hard as possible right now. He's trying to bring the gap to Watson down. I think what he's trying to do, and the MK Sims, what team are trying to do, they're trying to force Watson to call his strategy, which is either coming immediately to respond to Noakes. Alternatively, they're trying to goad him into pitting a bit sooner than the very end of the fuel tank in response to Kilo trying to get closer and closer. But he needs to be threatened by Anton Kilo, which at the moment, lap time this time for Watson, a 25.95. Kilo, meanwhile, as he crossed the line, a 25.92. So that's the response that's needed. He needs to chisel that gap down, but he needs to ideally do it a tenth or two a lap, and that may put the pressure on Watson. Right now, hundredths are not going to make the difference in such a situation, unless Anton Kilo's done an absolutely huge amount of fuel saving and therefore is able to save approximately 5 seconds in the pit lane. Never say never, to be fair. Only takes one poor pit stop in order to see places swapped around. At least at the moment, Watson does seem to still have a bit of control over this lead, even if that control is being taken away from him strategically. But still, we'll have to wait and see what the response is going to be. But an update, meanwhile, in the interclass, what we have had Anti lead it pretty much at the start of the race after Mikey Stewart's mistake coming out the old hairpin. The UKSimRacing, the Hamilton driver right now, not making any errors as such. And this has been a happy hunting ground for him in previous seasons. And Hayden Young currently running in second of the class, 7th overall. Tim Probert and Thomas Pugh between the two of them. He's got Steve Hobbs gradually closing on him little by little. And Hobbs is coming into this race as time goes on. I think the Sim Coach driver is taking the approach, which is take it smooth, take it consistent, and you'll eventually arrive at the scene rather than be pushing too hard early on. And the McLaren, that definitely is quite sensitive to tyre overheating. Nathan Anston's a bit further back, still has Max Wheeler for company. I don't think he's ever going to shake him today. And well, Martin King is then only 1.3 seconds behind. You see him there. New fastest lap of the race off camera. Adam Watson, a 25.756. New fastest lap again. Anton Kilo, a 25.681. Well, I think right now, Altitude 3 Esports and MK Sims, what they're responding to each other. And this is all in aid for Blaze Kilo. It's all in aid of Noakes. As we are into pit lane comes David Anstis. And Martin Kenyon comes in as well. Which just after the halfway point of the race, it's a smart call and strategy for Kilo as he comes on down. As we see the smoking car there, Daniel Pay's parked up, and well, that's not going anywhere soon. But where's Jordan Butler? Can he even take the lead on the track at least? Not strategically, but can he take the lead of the club class? I don't think he can. I think that Martin Keane's opened up such a gap this race that he'll come back out ahead by default. And in doing so, that'd be very impressive indeed. That would really show you how dominant he's been this season when he's been on his big runs. As Martin Kenyon leaves the pit lane now, albeit he's got to get to that limiter line, and Jordan Butler will lead a lap in the club class. So therefore, as he cuts off where's David Anstis, here comes Grant Miller on the inside as well. So he's absolutely going on. He wants to get past Anstis if he can to chase after Butler. He's not going to be given the chance to. Well, then Matthew Massey comes out ahead of Martin Kenyon. Kenyon takes his time leaving the pit lane, but to be fair to him, he has given himself the best part of a 20-second gap to use, so therefore I don't think Kenyon's too upset about losing a couple of seconds to play it safe. But that's a change on track, at least not a change in overall strategic position between club drivers. Matthew Massey right now continue to pursue Grant Miller for that third spot on the club podium. And well, we'll have to wait and see where we can do so. Given for Matthew Massey this season, as far as podiums have gone, well, it was last two out, it was the third place, and it was the second place all the way back in round number 3. So he's had his taste of the podium champagne twice. Can he get it thrice? We will find out for the Spectre Racing driver. David Young, well, he follows after Darren Sharples, the pro driver passing the club driver quite recently. And Sharples pitted, of course, on that one due to damage picked up in that contact to his teammate of what was Daniel Payes. But right now, well, he's just trying to see if he can carve his way up the order through the club drivers, knowing he'll probably have to pit again, although it will be a bit of a shorter pit stop, so he will put some fuel in on that first stop to see which way it goes for him. And in terms of drivers we've lost from this race, we have had a few retirements to our 34 car starting order, including Hendrik Zilka, the first star drivers to retire. We also lost Daniel Payes, also Ryan Clark, Carl Roy, and Jordan Maymar we lost most recently. He's definitely had a difficult day in the office. But Jordan Butler and Nathan Anstis, they head into Redgate Corner. Keep in mind that Butler has yet to pit. Anstis has pitted, so the pro driver here really wants to get into a bit of a different race and get away. This brings Grant Miller nice and close. They head down the hill. And as they do so, well, what's going to be the game plan here for Miller? Will he get it done on the road, or will he immediately now think to himself, you know what, it's time to get it done on the strategy instead? He's got options. He's going to need to decide quite quickly. From them, Jack Barker has Thomas Noakes behind him, and Noakes right now will need to clear Barker as quickly as he can to try and get the most out of this undercut strategy, and Barker in the end makes it very easy for Noakes to pass him. But to be fair, why should he fight him, given the fact they're both on two different strategies, and Barker's yet to pit, Noakes has pitted, so therefore just playing the sensible card. But back to Butler and Miller, as they chase after Nathan Anstis. Well, as they come down towards the S's this time, the gap from Butler to Anstis is 3.5 tenths. Miller, meanwhile, is 6 tenths behind the pair of them. And here I think he is probably going to need to start thinking about that pit stop sooner rather than later, because he might be able to get the jump on Jordan Butler. Of course, he's got to be wary of the fact that Butler might try to do the same here, thinking, well, if Nathan's going to hold me up a little bit, then I may not want to be stuck behind him for too long, particularly with Grant Miller getting so close. But we'll see as Pete Holt and Luke Sherlock are both into the pit lane. So they decide to come in. It's for the earlier into drivers to come in today. And as they come out of the final corner, nobody deflects the pit lane out of this club battle for what is effectively second through to fourth. Although you can see, look at Martin Kenyon sat behind, and he's going to be licking his lips together right now, the Pistep Racing driver. So remember, he has already pitted from the leader of the class. So being behind the top three as it goes round for Grant Miller, I don't believe it. And well, it's not quite lap 21 at Road Atlanta, but it's lap 26 at Donington Park. And for Grant Miller, it all goes round to the grass where it's looking to be an opportunity for a podium, and that might be the opportunity completely squandered. Well, he's still guaranteed to finish second in the championship unless he has a complete nightmare end to this race. But right now, that run of podiums is definitely going to be coming to an abrupt halt at this rate unless he can recover his way and get back into the fight versus what will be, well, he's got to get past David Young first, and then it's Massey and Butler he's got to find his way onto the attack to, and at least pass one of them. That's going to be a lot of work between now and the end of the race for him, no doubt about it. And, well, such an easy mistake to make. We'll get a replay of that shortly. But Matthew Massey right now being passed by Martin Kenyon. And Kenyon Massey swapping places. They're going into the S's, a completely traditional pass. But this is exactly what happened to Grant Miller only moments ago. And so, going in towards a Redgate Bend, as he rolled his way towards the apex of the corner, took a lot of curb. In fact, you could see that the car bounced over the curb. He mounted it, and in fact, put the right-hand side tyres beyond the curb, and the curb drops away from the circuit, so it actually drops onto the grass. It's not completely flat from curb to grass, and that's what bounced the car around. And as Miller attacked the curb, well, unfortunately, it bit back and sent the car for a spin. Unfortunately, the Phoenix Racing red driver, he was looking for that line, but in the end, the line came back to haunt him. As return to your racing, Adam Watson sliding his way out of the Melbourne hairpin, find a bit of traffic in front of him. That's the Luke Sherlock machine for Darkwing Racing, the purple-black car. And will the Aperture 3M Esports driver come in? No, he stays out. Into pit lane is Tom Wheeler, and a Wheeler coming in from 7th place in the club class. We believe this is effective 7th place regardless, although Stephen Wilkinson, he might be fighting with the SimCast Racing UK driver who's making his way through the hairpin right now. In fact, I think Wilkinson is a bit ahead, albeit the gap right now won't be too great as Wilkinson comes down the hill through Goddard's. To see what it's going to be. Wheeler still being searched at the moment. He's got another about 6 seconds left on his pit stop as Harvey Wheeler's into the pit lane and Sight Anti's in from the lead of the interclass, but Wilkinson will take that place back over Tom Wheeler as Wheeler makes his way on out, but he won't be too far behind. He'll be about 7 seconds behind in totality, and well, we'll have to see where he comes into all this. But more critically, there's Sight Anthony parked up. In fact, as quickly as he was parked up, he's gone. Harvey Wheeler comes out as well, and well, we have seen Anton Kilo go on. Thomas Noakes, meanwhile, of course, he has already stopped, so he comes back out ahead of Harvey Wheeler. Sight Anthony's there, and well, for Harvey Wheeler, he has not lost any places strategically. That's the important part at this time. The highest place driver who has pitted is Thomas Noakes. We'll show you that with the pit stop numbers on the number of pit stops served by drivers on your timing tower. And Thomas Noakes is currently the highest placed one who has served the pit stop. and it's Anthony and Harvey Wheeler, Nathan Anstis and Martin Kenyon. And Kenyon has retaken the club lead with Matthew Massey yet to pit in club, whereas Jordan Butler and David Young are all coming in. They're all piling into the pit lane now. Butler at the rear of your picture, but he gets going. Grant Miller will be coming in very shortly. Ryan Clark's car there smoking and smouldering due to an incident he's been involved in earlier on. But as Jordan Butler makes his way on down, where does this bring him back out? Well, it's going to bring him out in third place. But remember, he's still got to have Matthew Massey pit. So could he find himself battling with Massey, the two Spectre Racing drivers, or will he be ahead, or will Massey find a way to jump him? That and more we will see soon, because Anton Kilo into the pit lane now. As he does so, with the MK Sport driver waiting to go. And, well, where would he come out in relation to Noakes and Harvey Wheeler? There is, there's Max Wheeler. Where is Thomas Noakes? He's coming on down now. Anton Keeler, meanwhile, still to get to pit limiter line. James Coddy coming up the pit lane as well. Well, that explains it all. And Harvey Wheeler a bit further back. So nothing has changed in Pro, it would seem. So now we're just waiting to see where Noakes will be in relation to Watson. And, well, that will give us the final dimension in that strategic and on the track battle for the Pro win and how the championship could play out between Harvey Wheeler and Thomas Noakes. But looking a bit further down the order as Max Wheeler comes out the pit lane, side by side here with Mikey Stewart. Well, Stewart in the end having to find a bit of space. And intriguingly, Max Wheeler has jumped Nathan Anstis, the UKSimRacing Hamilton driver. This has not worked out for it, I suspect. It was that fighting with a couple of the club drivers. Even though it's a brief moment, it has cost him some time. And Nathan Anstis has lost out versus the triple three of Max Wheeler. So Sonny, 8th place in the Pro class, has been handed to Wheeler. But into the pits from the lead of the race. This is the big one. It's Adam Watson. He makes his way down on pit road. Meanwhile, where is Thomas Noakes? Here he is making his way out towards the Melbourne hairpin, and Adam Watson is now being serviced. So we're expecting somewhere in the region of around about a 16 to 18 second pit stop for Watson. But Noakes has still got to make his way through Goddard and then down the start finish straight. And, well, it's 13 seconds already for Adam Watson. And, well, that car's almost serviced out. In fact, Watson, a 15.4 second stop. He was not pushing hard, Watson. And as he heads out the pit lane, that gap between him and Thomas Noakes is going to have absolutely expanded. Watson comes out. Yes, he finds some lap down traffic around him, including David Young, who's going to get the switch back onto pass immediately. But Noakes is now 4 seconds behind. Adam Watson has completely nailed this strategy, and right now he's completely clear of Noakes, he's clear of Kalo, and then we do have Tim Probert's coming out the pit lane, and Tim Probert's coming out in 4th place here with a significantly shorter stop than Harvey Wheeler, and we'll sight Anthony and Harvey Wheeler are behind, so this is a big twist. And with all the pit stops now complete effectively, well, let's be up to speed, ladies and gentlemen, with where drivers stand, and particularly in the classes, starting with Pro. So Adam Watson, very much on course here to make it his 4th win of the season for Altitude Frame Esports, and we're 4 seconds ahead of Thomas Noakes, who pressured him at the start of the race, but it's been discovered that Adam Watson was really saving the fuel and has had a very short stop, and Noakes, meanwhile, had a much longer stop, and he's lost quite a bit of time by going for the undercut. As he heads on through the chicane, when it's 4.5 seconds behind, it's Anton Kilo, his teammate for MK Sim Sport. And well, they definitely control the 2 bottom steps of the Pro podium. And Tim Probert is 8 seconds behind, but he has jumped ahead of Harvey Wheeler on the pit stops. And what it means now is things for the fish as they currently stand by a single point. Thomas Noakes would be your champion because Harvey Wheeler needs to get into 4th place, and he's pushing hard as Anti drops behind him. Anti there picking up a slowdown through the chicane. Anti is the leader in the interclass meanwhile, but the big intrigue, of course, is the man behind him running in 8th place, Hayden Young. Now he's running 2nd inter, whereas Mikey Stewart, meanwhile, is running in 3rd. So it does mean, if things for the fish as they currently stand, Mikey Stewart would take the win in the championship by 16 points. Getting the fact he's clawed his way all the way up to 3rd place after starting on pole, only to lose it for the old hairpin with a big error that almost cost him his race. As he heads on around, still there's more time to tell, and anything can happen before this race is said and done. Speaking of which, we have a black flag for Grant Miller for instant points, so Miller's going to have to go into the pits lane for a drive-through penalty, and he's one of your club drivers, and the only driver who could potentially steal the crown away from Martin Kenyon should Kenyon finish 12th or lower, which would mean you'd have to essentially finish by Jordan Maymar or Ryan Clark. We did have 13 club drivers who made it here to Donington Park in the end. We're both about this race right now. It is guaranteed essentially that Martin Kenyon, so long as he is classified as finishing, he will be taking that crown. But Grant Miller with that drive-through penalty is only going to hurt him even more, and he needs to win the race to potentially steal it away from Kenyon. That's the only way he can do it. But meanwhile, Martin Kenyon leads in the club class, and by 35 seconds, he's on course here to make it his 6th win of the season, and in doing so, look to take home what would be a grand total of 1,000 105 points at the end of the season. A record. He could do it. Jordan Butler second. Meanwhile, he's keeping Matthew Massey at bay, and the Spectre of racing drivers have leapt their way into second and third respectively. Jumping Grant Miller, who now with his drive-through penalty will be out of the hunt for that battle. There's no question about it. But as we look to Matthew Massey, I think right now he wants a little bit more. He wants to try and steal that second place for Jordan. Will he be able to do so? Well, there's going to be a bit of time before we find the definitive answer. But that's a quick update then on the situations regarding your championships in each of the classes. In the Teams Championship, we don't quite have all the mathematics available to do this, ladies and gentlemen, but right now, if things were to finish as they currently stand, we believe it could be Send It Racing's pair of Tim Probert and Hayden Young, who may just steal the crown away from the Averso Fast by Free Wheeler racing pair of Tom and Harvey Wheeler. It would be very close, however, between them, but we think that's the way it could go at the moment. However, we are not going to try and predict that just simply because the amount of mathematics involved. But meanwhile, as we do see Darren Sharples tucking up the inside of Matthew Massey, taking an overall position back there of 19th. And we'll still a few more to go. We've got a black flag for David Pilcher as well for track limits. So still a few more instant points to come. And could those potentially influence the outcome of this race? Of course, nobody wants a drive-through penalty, but it's so easy to get one, as we do see Pilcher make his way into the pit lane in the back of your camera. But that's Tim Probert and Harvey Wheeler, and the Send It Racing driver. The pressure is on here now. For Tim, selfishly, he wants the best possible result he can take here to see if he can Send It Racing all the way to the top of the Team Championship standing. So keeping Harvey Wheeler behind him is critical to that, because he is one of the two drivers of the Averso Fast by Free Wheeler Racing team he wants to keep behind, because they're part of that team that lead the championship. And we can see just by sight, Anthony may have something to say about this, trying to get involved himself, trying to further his own aspirations for the UKSimRacing Hamilton team. And so it's all a bit of intrigue right now, but Harvey Wheeler's definitely the one who's got the hard work in front of him. He's got to find his way past. There's right aboard here with a 334 Aston Martin. Well, what can we see is becoming the difference? Well, he is the quicker driver. That last lap, he took half a second out of Probert, and we're rolling away out of the old hairpin. I think it is just how consistent he's proving to be with the car at the moment. That McLaren we know is quick. We also know as races go on, the McLaren normally does have the worst tyre life compared to the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin is a lot more gracious to its tyres, or gentler to its tyres by comparison, even when it's pushed quite hard. And that is because typically of the turbo lag that's associated with its V8 twin turbo engine. But coming out of Coppice Bend, you see that off the lines, McLaren are able to open up a gap initially, and the Aston Martin then just slowly close up. It is the battle of the two V8 twin-turbo machines. Of course, the McLaren's V8 system being based on a Nissan system from many a year ago. As they head down towards the hairpin of Melbourne, well, they've got some company in front of them. Onto the brakes they go, and hold up a second. That is done. Anton Kalo. They've caught up to him very suddenly. Has he had a mistake? Somewhere's Anton Kalo. I'm not quite sure, but right now Anton Kalo's falling back here, and well, in doing so, well, he's really battling here with Harvey Wheeler, and the MK Sim Sport driver does not look to be in the happiest state of mind right now. And well, unless there's been a mistake of some description, Anton Kalo slipped a long way back, and let's try and find out what's happened there. And well, now it's going to be the battle between these two again, but this helps Tim Probert massively moving up into third place, and Anton Kalo, as he falls back to fourth, well, now he's definitely going to be putting up the defensive walls here. This is going to be the hardest pass that Harvey Wheeler's ever going to have to do in his sim racing career so far. In the vein, he's to find his way past the MK Sim Sport car, and Anton Kalo holds the keys here to the kingdom of the crowd. But as they make the way onwards, well, it's going to be Harvey Wheeler trying to push as much as he possibly can, and we'll roll in the way onwards, looking around the outside here. But this is the first attempt to move immediately. He goes to the switchback, but Grant Miller's on the outside, and he just avoids side scraping at Miller's car, who does his best to avoid. We're looking around the outside again, traffic in front of him, and Harvey Wheeler tries to get the power down, but in front of that's going to be the BMW there of none other than what will be, I suspect, that's going to be David Pilcher's Simcast racing car that immediately steps aside. And at this point, well, Harvey Wheeler will definitely be doing his best John Clendon impression, saying, I'll be going for first. And, well, understanding Anton Kalo right now needs to be passed, and then Wheeler's got to just push on as much as he can. But as he comes down towards the braking zone here, this is definitely going to have the vibes of what will be Tim Harvey's BTCC Championship all those years ago at Silverstone. And Wheeler right now knowing that one place in front of him is the place he needs, presuming that Noakes does not improve from second place. But as they go onwards towards turn number 12, Right now, Wheeler having to regroup and think about it once again. As Site Anti constantly there, waiting to pounce as the interleader. And well, for him, it's just because he wants to get away from Hayden Young if he catches up. But Young is 8.5 seconds behind at the moment. So in theory, Site Anti can just afford to sit there for the remainder of the race and not get involved. But if I know the Welshman well enough, I think he'll do so for so long. And then the devil on his left-hand shoulder will simply say, okay, we spent enough time waiting. Let's get stuck into the fight. Because he always loves a good battle out of the circuit. But we'll see how long his patience does last. But with that, we do take a look back at how Tim Probert found his way past Anton Kilo. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. So as Anton made his way out of the chicane, not a good run out the corner there. And in fact, that last lap, he was a whole 7/10 slower. So I think making a mistake at some point through that chicane, and that's cost him the time. Anton Kilo in the end, then find himself in that battle immediately. There was no off track as such, but he just had a poor lap. As we come back to the racing, well, meanwhile, still 9.5 minutes left. There's still some twists and turns in the tail of this one. And well, you can see that as he has backed off a little bit and he's letting a Wheeler just focus on the racing in front of him. But as we do it to Martin Kenyon, he chases after Mikey Stewart for overall 12th place. There's nothing more, nothing less to be gained there. And well, I'm saying the Pistep Racing driver, just a very, very comfortable gap to Jordan Butler. Well, to give you an idea of that gap, he's only making his way through Crane and now as Keaton's about to make his way through the S's. That is essentially half a lap's worth of gap that's been grown. So you're looking at about 40 seconds now. And Jordan Butler still very happy with that second place in class. But as Martin Keane has found his way past Mikey Stewart at the Melbourne hairpin, and I think it's going to be Stewart just tucking back in there. And he doesn't need to do any more. He doesn't need to put pressure on for this position because understandably third place is going to be enough at the moment. He will have done the maths as they come out of the corner. And on towards that timeline, it's gone to their 36th tour of the circuit. Meanwhile, it is looking to be a very lonely lead for Adam Watson, who has opened up that gap now to 8 seconds, and he is just storming away half a second a lap. And this is Adam Watson at his finest, and I suspect he's had another road at Lanzamote, which is his first stint was all about fuel saving and time management, and his second stint he's had the chains taken off and he's been completely released, and suddenly he can now just pump out those laps and deliver some absolute monstrous times that keep him safe all the way to the end. As Thomas Noakes heads down towards the Melbourne hairpin, and the MK Supersport driver second place right now with Wheeler in 5th. It would be enough by a single point. It would be the closest margin we have ever seen a championship go to here in the UK Sim Racing at Sunday GT3 Championship. The second closest, or the current record, is by 2 points, because we did used to have a scoring system that was based around essentially 2 points between each and every finishing position. But since the revision to our point scale here with SimRacing International as new host of the series, we have seen that change. But, oh, goodness me, that's Tim Probert who's gone round there. Oh, what is the Goddard's hairpin? And, well, he's got a black flag as well. Now, what exactly has happened as Harvey Wheeler goes on the attack? And I think there's damage to Enzo Kilo's car. Wheeler's going to go around the outside. He tries to get it done. And he's going to risk it. But goes down. There's contact between them. He straightens the car out. And there's a black flag for Anton Kilo as well. It's a drive-through penalty for 2 pro drivers. So Anti squeezes his way through, and suddenly Bedlam unfolds here at Donington with 7 minutes left on the clock. We'll get replays of it shortly. But as Anti goes on the inside of Kilo, Harvey Wheeler squeezes on through. He's going to go for both of them here. Here's young Harvey, and up the hill he roars. And as he does so, goes round the outside of Science. He wants no part to play in this. And Harvey Wheeler makes his way through, back up into 3rd place overall. My goodness, how it can suddenly change in such a short period of time. And as it does so, well, we can see Anton Kilo there parked out on the outside of the corner of McLean's. It's all gone wrong for Anton Kilo. What exactly happened to see that happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we immediately get a replay. Hold on to your hats. This one could be dramatic. So heading up the hill in towards Gollard's. Probert on the outside there, natural race 9, and Anton Kilo went onto the brakes way too late there, and I'm not quite sure what's happened, but he's unfortunately collected Tim Probert in the process. That's given the Senate racing driver a drive-through penalty for what will be instant points. That will be a 4 extra contact, and Anton Kilo subsequently being caught up in an instant into the hairpin here with the front end damage. And I think Wheeler overcooked it, and Kilo taps on the rear, no malice meant. And well, thankfully, they made contact again, and that straightened out Harvey Wheeler. Otherwise, that could have been a complete nightmare. This is what it looked like on board from Anton Kilo's car. Made his way up into the brake zone. Let's listen in. And on to the brakes. Well, That's from very far back. They did go onto the brakes, but he pointed the car towards the apex. So that far back, I think that was a bit aspirational. But still, I'm sure he'll have an opinion on it, as will everyone. And, well, understandably, the MK Sport driver definitely. After that, we saw the subsequent battle here, and Harvey Wheeler went around the outside, but just wobbled a little bit after going to the outside, and Kilo tried to get the power down, but at that point had no time to react. And, well, the MK Sport driver, unfortunately, those camera angles not shining the most flatter in the lights, but we will reserve judgment. We always do, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, the cameras you see on broadcast, we only have a limited suite of cameras available. Meanwhile, should anything go to the stewards, they have every camera. They have all the throttle and brake traces. They have all the information you could dream of to be able to understand the narrative of an incident. And indeed, that's how it all has to work out at the end of the day. And at SimRacing International, we do have a very, what is in-depth stewarding system. And indeed, it's one of the best out there because it gives drivers who are involved in incidents the opportunity to properly discuss what happened and indeed go into all the nitty-gritty details. Meanwhile, Grant Miller dives up the inside there. Tom Wheeler, and Wheeler does pull the car out there to avoid making contact. And the Phoenix Racing red driving in almost gains the place, but Tom Wheeler having to really dig in now all the way to the very end. And, well, the 1334 Ford Mustang, when the Versa Rapid by Free Wheel Racing driver struggling on those rear tyres, tries to get it together, and as he makes his way onwards, just about holds on. But here comes Grant Miller looking for another counter-attack. Will he be able to get it done? And the answer is no. He's just going to sit behind that little bit longer. As they come out of Red Gate Corner, of course, now with the change and Harvey Wheeler back up into third place, it means he would take the championship crown by 20 points. And the only thing I can think of with regards to what was the move being made by Anton Kilo in that contact with Tim Probert is I think he may have been thinking about going defensive to that inside line because of the concern of Harvey Wheeler behind him, and in the process missed his braking zone by about 50 metres. It's not uncommon on that inside line into Goddard's how deep it is a corner. If you brake on that inside line, you've got to be prepared to brake very early because otherwise the car will be scooped away. Tim Probert, meanwhile, makes back the inside there of Mikey Stewart, regaining 11th place. But the Send It Racing driver will be absolutely fuming. I think he'll cool down a little bit, but understandably, he'll be very upset to have lost out. But meanwhile, Thomas Noakes now under pressure here. And, well, the MK SimSport driver, he's suddenly lost a huge amount of time. And, well, in fact, the last lap, he has lost the best part of what is 10 seconds. Harvey Wheeler's there now with him. So what on earth is going on for MK SimSport? It's all falling off right now. And as he makes about the corner with 3 minutes to go, is he having to save a lot of fuel here to try and get to the end of the race? As they underfueled the car, and with 3 minutes to go, things all going very much wrong. The sunny Harvey Wheeler's right there, and Noakes going on the attack. But remember, for Harvey Wheeler right now, all he needs to do is finish directly behind Thomas Noakes, and suddenly this will be his crown. And so, for Noakes, what the game plan's got to be right now, well, there's no ability to close down Adam Watson. He's had to try and back Harvey Wheeler into as many people as possible. Thomas Pugh's the next target, but Thomas Pugh's 1.2 seconds back and closing slowly, so therefore that's not the best of bets. And with a further 6 seconds to Steve Hobbs, I think right now, well, I think for Noakes, it is all a light at the end of the tunnel that's just gradually creeping away from him. You can see that Harvey Wheeler's so close to the back of the head up the hill. And at this point, if you're Harvey Wheeler, do you gamble battling with him or do you just sit behind? Well, I think the thought's going to be one way or the other, but if Harvey has been educated by his dad and his uncle, they'll said to the Verso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing Drive. We apologise for putting Verso fast earlier on. That's the other team. I think they'll have educated him to say, just know what you need to do and do the minimum to take this championship. Don't do anything silly. And that's why I would suspect he will definitely fight, but he won't fight as if his championship depends on it, because it doesn't right now. And he will definitely be aware of that as he stays close behind. As they come out the corner, well, Wheeler definitely feeling as though he's caught up behind that Ferrari, and Anti's still waiting. But 2 more laps to go. Anti being very patient. He's got the patience of a saint as the interleader. He still does have a 4.5 second gap to Hayden Young, who is slowly closing, but that is more because Anti's having to back off so much rather than get involved. But penultimate lap gets underway, and right now for Adam Watson, well, it's this lap, he's already halfway through it, and he's got 1 more tour to go. It'll be 42 laps we deliver here today at Donington Park, and what a decider it has been. It's been a decisive race in many an account. Adam Watson, it definitely has given you a very clear decision on how quick his pace has been. As hold the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Mikey Stewart is into the pit lane. I don't believe it. He's coming in. Is this a splash and dash? It's surely got to be a splash and dash here. This has got to be a small amount of fuel going in the car. And as he leaves, Hayden Young is second. Peter Holt comes on through. Jack Barker's up the road. Jake Muttett's coming along here. This is going to put Mikey Stewart all the way down to 6th place. And with that, Hayden Young is currently in second. Stewart drops to 6th. It would be Hayden Young's championship this time by a grand total of 24 points. So sunny for Mikey Stewart. Not putting the right amount of fuel in, I think. Not expected to go 42 laps. And sunny seeing we are, because Adam Watson's pace has just been that strong here today. Watson goes on to lap 24 with a grand total, lap 24, lap 42 with 24 seconds left to go. Apologies there for the mix up the numbers, but either way, Adam Watson right now with his pace has added an extra lap onto this race that I think some were not predicting. So it does look as though Watson right now may cause many a driver to think, do they need the extra fuel? But either way, well, Hayden Young right now, whether he knows it or not, he's potential course to become your provisional champion in the interclass. And what a topsy-turvy into the season this will be. One more lap to go, and right now Young is only a lap between himself and destiny, as meanwhile Martin Kenyon in control here and long course to make it a 6th win of the season, and with it 1,005 points in the club championship fight. But Noakes, Wheeler, Ante, there they are, the fight for second overall and second in pro, with the interleader coming along for company, and Thomas Butte is gradually closing up to it. But right now it doesn't look as though here Harvey Wheeler's going to have a way in, as he just sits behind looking around the outside, but more for safety rather than trying to make a move happen, and just being absolutely cautious here. No, he doesn't need to do any more. And sight Ante's playing that game as well. They all are here. They're all just sitting behind each other at the moment. No, there's no need to risk anything. But meanwhile, as Adam Watson heads to the round, he took pole position here by 900ths of a second. But goodness me, the pace here today for the 388 driver for the United Kingdom has been monstrous enough. They will end his season on a high. Adam Watson takes his 4th win of the season, 2 in a row. And what an end to the season for him. Jordan Butler comes on home, your runner-up in the club class, a lap down there with Matthew Massey making it a double podium for Spectre Racing. But meanwhile, where is Thomas Noakes? There he is. They make the way out of Melbourne and in towards Goddard. And for Noakes today, he came into this one on the back foot. He needed to outscore Harvey Wheeler, but by a considerable margin. He will take second for MK Simsport, but as he heads the line, the man behind him becomes your provisional pro champion. Harvey Wheeler takes it with 3rd place for Versa Rapid by Freewheeler Racing. Anti ends this season on a win for UKSimRacing Hamilton, cementing his 3rd place spot in the Inter Championship ahead of Thomas Pugh. Hayden Young comes on through, and with 2nd place in Inter, he now waits for where Mikey Stewart is going to finish. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen, for the Sendit Racing driver. There's Martin Kent, your club champion, and makes it 1,005 points with that performance to 10th place. Tim Probert comes home 11th. Jack Barker comes through 3rd on the Inter podium. And then we've got to wait for Peter Holt. He's going to be 4th for Sendit Racing Bulls. And then coming down to the final corner, it's Jake Muttett in 5th for Phoenix Racing Blue. And it means provisionally, with Mikey Stewart coming home in 6th place in the Interclass, 15th overall, with that splash and dash pit stop at the end. It is Hayden Young who takes the crown in what will be the Inter Championship there in a smoking car. And I think he's been celebrated already, but the Sendit Racing driver has provisionally taken it based on those results, we believe. And well, Luke Sherlock came over in 16th place just by Mikey Stewart, and we did see Darren Sharples be the last lead lap finisher. But what an end to the race, ladies and gentlemen. My goodness, twists and turns abound, and it was Adam Watson calls things on down. He'll be probably thinking to himself, well, I got a bit of fighting with Thomas Noakes earlier on, but there wasn't too much more drama than that. But the drama behind, well, goodness me, it's always the case when you have a title decider, you're going to see plenty of drama. And well, Hayden Young will be absolutely pleased, although I don't think he's going to quite believe when it all looked to be going Mikey Stewart's way. But unfortunately for Mikey, it's all got a bit backwards, and well, right at the very end, as Adam Watson celebrated, burning some of the rubber on his McLaren. And in a little bit, I think he is still having to run those tyres to the pit lane, but he's going to take it nice and easy. And, well, all the drivers gradually turn to the pit lane, if not making the way there. As Jack Barker takes it nice and easy for Made for Racing. A quiet drive for him today, but a podium to end this season. He'll be proud of that, but it will cement his status as 4th place finisher in the Inter Championship ahead of Jake Muttett, but losing out versus Sight Anthony for 3rd as he does some donuts of his own. But as we leave him to celebrate with some donuts and the Sir Bottle Job Made for Racing machine, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries, ladies and gentlemen, as we look to the scenic view. And as we can see, after an incredible 60 minutes of racing to wrap up the Sunday GT3 Championship Season 18, brought to you by UKSimRacing, hosted by SimRacing International and iRacing. Adam Watson takes the final win of the season overall in pro at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit here in the heart of England for Altitude 3M Esports. 28.4 seconds behind him, Thomas Noakes at MK Simsport, who in the end finished ahead of Harvey Wheeler. He needed to do that. That was a tick in the box, but it needed to be multiple places ahead. It was not, because Harvey Wheeler took third in the Verso Rapid by Freewheeler Racing after that huge incident between Anton Killer and Tim Probert. It opened up the path, and what was looking to be a light fading at the end of the tunnel, with Harvey Wheeler light suddenly sprung to life like a solar flare, and the Briton took third overall, and with it the pro crown. So Anthony, winner in the interclass there, fourth place for UKSR Hamilton. And a monster drive today, just one step ahead of the rest of his peers, with Thomas Pugh completing the top 5 for Access Sports with SimCoach, and then run up in the interclass, Hayden Young for Send It Racing. And well, he did everything right today, and he is your provisional Inter champion. Steve Hobbs, 7th for SimCoach, ahead of Max Wheeler, and the Verso Fast by Freewheeler Racing driver again ahead of Nathan Anstis through the pit stops and never letting the place go, with the UKSR Hamilton driver taking 9th ahead of Martin Kenyon, your club winner. And with his 6th win of the season for Pistech Racing, it means he ends the season pretty on 1,005 points. He takes the club crown and sets an all-new time record for the most points scored by a driver in a single season. Tim Probert, 11th there, best of the rest of Send It Racing. A frustrated end to his race, but he didn't give up, and he fought his way back to 11th, just ahead of Mayfair Racing's Jack Barker at the finish. Jack Barker completing into podium. Now it's Pete for Send It Racing Bulls, a further 8 seconds behind, but 6 ahead of Jake Muttett for Phoenix Racing Blue. And Mikey Stewart with that splash and dash, not compensating for a 40-second lap in terms of his fuel tank. The Access Sports with his SimCoach driver settling for 6th in the interclass, 15th overall, and seeing the championship crown slip out of his grasp. Luke Sherlock, 16th there for Darkwing, racing the last lead lap finish ahead of Darren Sharples in the end for Old Dudes and Cars Amnesia. And we did see 2nd in the club class there for Jordan Butler for Spectre Racing Feet Simworks, ahead of his sister team driver at Spectre Races, Matthew Massey, who completed the club podium. Well done to the pair of them. David Young, one of his best performances of the season here at Donington today, finishing 4th in the club class, just missed out on the podium, but he was 20th ahead of Stephen Wilkinson, and it was Tom Wheeler, Grant Miller, James Connolly and Alexander Vingmark who completed a large run of club drives there to 25th place for Beta Frost, and in 2 laps down it was Casper Brockner ahead of David Pilcher, 3 laps down Oliver Sphinxet, and then we did see 5 laps down and classified as a finisher Anton Kilo for MK Simsport, with his race coming apart right at the end. And it was sadly non-finishes for Jordan Maymar, for Carl Roy, Ryan Clark, Daniel Pays and Hendrik Zilka. But what about the individual class finishing positions? Because this is where the points are made and paid. And as we can see, starting with pro, Adam Watson, a 4-time winner of the season for Altitude 3M Esports, and a monster end to the season by taking victory by 28.5 seconds almost ahead of MK Simsport's Thomas Noakes, run up here today. Harvey Wheeler, meanwhile, all we need to do was make sure he finished 1 place behind Thomas Noakes to take the crown. That's exactly what he's done with that 3rd place. And the Verso Rapid by Freewheeler Racing driver, your pro provisional champion. Thomas Pugh, 4th there for Access Sports with SimCoach, a further 6 tenths behind, and in the end opted not to fight with the lead intro, and I think not wanting to run the risk of getting involved and perhaps trigger an incident that could decide the championship, as Steve Hobbs a further 6 seconds behind for SimCoach there, round off the top 5 with a season best performance. Mine is McLaren. It was the McLaren of Max Wheeler for a Verso Fast by Freewheeler Racing, who got the upper hand on Nathan Anstis. And then we did see Tim Probert, your last lead lap finisher, with being a lap down to Darren Sharples, Old Dudes in Cars Amnesia, head of the vintage sister team at Casper Brockner, was 2 laps down and 5 laps down, as finished in the pit lane by MK Simsports Anton Kilo, and then Carl Roy, your sole retiree. Outside of the pros, we go to the interclass. There we can see in the 2nd tier of our classes, Cy Anstey for UKSimRacing Hamilton, taking the victory by 5.5 seconds, and for him, that win standing as his 3rd win of the season, his 6th podium. And what I said coming into today, could he make it the progression of 3rd, 2nd and 1st in his last 3 results to end the season, the Showdown rounds? And he's done exactly that. I wonder if Cy was listening in. Hayden Young for Send It Racing, 2nd place there, and that 2nd place being enough, with Mikey Stewart finishing 6th to take the crown provisionally for Send It Racing. And then did see in what was 3rd place there, Jack Barker for Made for Racing, picking up the podium right at the end, 8 seconds ahead of Pete for Send It Racing Bulls. Jake Muttett completed the top 5 for Phoenix Racing Blue, keeping Barker honest at the start, but losing the pace as the race went on. Mikey Stewart 6th then, ahead of Luke Sherlock. And then we did see behind the Darkwing Racing drive retirements for Daniel Pays and Hendrik Zilka for the Old Dudes in Cars Vintage and Amnesia teams respectively. And as for the club class, last but by no means least, Martin Kenyon, the only club driver to finish on the lead lap. His 6th win, and for Pistech Racing, guaranteeing his crown. And what a way to end the season by taking it to town at Donington Park. Jordan Butler, the first to finish a lap down in club for Spectre Racing Feet Simworks. Run up on the podium ahead of Matthew Massey, a double podium for the team at Spectre Racing. And Derry Young in 4th place there at the privateer, just ahead of Stephen Wilkinson. The Simcast Racing UK drive ran out the season by being the best of the team's drivers here at Donington Park, ahead of Tom Wheeler for Reverso Rapid by Free Wheeler Racing. And we did see Grant Miller with a frustrated middle portion of the race. That mistake at Redgate cost him a chance for a podium, and the Phoenix Racing Red drive to settle for 7th. James Connolly, 8th there for UKSimRacing DRS, ahead of Alexander Vingmark. And then we did see 2 laps down. Simcast Racing UK's David Pilcher, ahead of 3 laps down, Oliver Svigset. And behind the Batos Strike, it was retirements for Jordan Maymar and also for Ryan Clark. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our rundown of the results, subject to Eddie Stewart's inquiries. And, well, as it does seem as though our overlay has decided to have a bit of a breakdown right at the end there, and in fact it has glitched. I think it's decided that it's retired itself as it is the end of the season. Well, the good thing is we can work some magic there to hide the overlay. If an alternative means, well, we're not going to be going away for too long, because whilst our racing is complete, we are now going to get ourselves set for what will be our post-round interviews. And don't go anywhere, because in approximately 5 minutes' time, we'll be bringing you interviews for a whole variety of drivers, including some of our provisional champions, and you won't want to miss what they've got to say, not just about the race at Donington Park today, but about their seasons as a whole. We'll be back as soon as we possibly can. And it's lights out and away we go for our season opener. Start play, gets a good start, but look alongside him and you'll see there Milton Tomlinson Dennis immediately going the attack into the braking zone. 1 drive into the grass already, that's Mikey Story, but 3 wide, they come into the opening corner. That's a bold move there. William Humphrey makes the place as they make the way through in towards turn number 2. I think the Altitude 3M Esports driver here might just be fancying his chances once again as they come into the braking zone now for turn number 1, and as they make the way from right into left, well, Hayden Miller here side by side with him. They'll go all the way through to turn number 3, and Saunders does take the place there. That's for overall position, not for pro position. Saunders is the pro leader, but he goes a bit deep there at 3 to the inside of 4 then, and Miller right now enjoying this. Saunders enjoying it. A little bit of rub and contact between the 2 of them, but nothing wrong with a bit of bump and grind between the 2 Ford, for the Ford and the Corvette, the 2 Americans I should say. And
with those 2 Evo drivers in front of them, they're just, they're realistically in a completely different race. They're just a barrier up towards the likes of Rubino and Wendell. Oh, there's Rubino going off the road, and here comes James Bostock, past 1, past 2. This is a great little move from James.
Oh, and look behind him as well. Hardy up high, he decides to come back down low. But Denny Plurger has really lost a lot of ground here. He's lost 7 places since the start of this race in that green Porsche. But look at this, for the lead, Hammond wants it. He's gone back down the inside. He got off the brakes again to let the car down the inside of Rob Mackay. And you said Rob was going to be clinging on at the front. And now he's clinging on to second. Great move by Lewis Hammond. Really good committed stuff. And look, down the inside, Richard White. He wants a piece of this in the Porsche. He's got James Bostock.
And it's lights out and away we go here as Mirko Bortolotti goes exactly on the green, and as they roar the way down towards turn number 1, Martin Statman side by side with him, but look behind Tim Perry under pressure, Miguel Leon immediately as the Enosis Esports driver tries to put the pressure on. Further back we've got 3, 4 wide, they're all in the crush as they come through the opening bay. Look back for the rear of your second place runner Statman, and Statman right now for the Gazex Racing team. What he's trying to do here, I think now, is just hold on to second, and if needed, he may have to act as a bit of a buffer and perhaps sacrifice a little bit of his race for the race leader here, although Bortolotti, to be fair, I think might be holding some pace back. But here comes Lux in the tow, in towards what we roller coaster they come with the Virginian corkscrew. It's left into right very quickly here as they both make the way, and it's 2 wide on entry, but Lux gets ahead. It's up into second now, as it will be Martin Statman falling down to 3rd, but Callum Lux does clear another one, and now only 1 car is between him and an opportunity of victory here tonight. Which is Perry going to make the move, or I'm going to have to make the move for him? Well, there's your answer. Perry's going to go on the inside here of Dean into the braking zone. Edwards gets to watch it from the popcorn seat view. Perry there being 2 wide on exit. Dean's going to try and hang around the outside as Edwards thinks about going up the inside as well. He gets himself ready for it in case there's contact, but there's not. Perry there being fair. Dean tucks back in behind. Lovely move there from Tim Perry. And I think meanwhile Beardsworth will hope they don't get close up in time, as Beardsworth's going to look up the inside. He goes all in, and it's from very far back. He gets it stopped, however, and Beardsworth there nails the move, but Tillerson's going to come back at him up the hill. Does he go in on the brakes here? This is bold to do it on the inside. No, he does not. And Brian Beardsworth, the he gets it wrong. He goes out wide at turn number 6. Tillison's going to be too wide with him, but too wide they're going to turn 7. Tillison goes on the switch back there. 9 is no way through, and in the end they come down towards turn number 8. Well, there Tillison backs off. He lets Hutchinson go around the outside, but is it the right call? Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time to kick off our post-round interviews. And how better to kick off than by speaking to one of our provisional champions, because we head to the interclass and we are going to be speaking to none other than Hayden Young, who joins me in the interview room.
Hello.
Hayden, you are our provisional inter-champion. How does that sound?
Mate, I can't believe it. I genuinely can't believe it. I saw Mikey in qualifying and I thought, oh no, he's fast. He's fast. And then I got a brilliant start. And then, yeah, it all unravelled for him. Couldn't believe it. I genuinely couldn't believe it.
Oh, indeed. What a story it's been. But of course, coming into this round, had you done the maths to know exactly how you needed to finish, or was it just play it as you went?
Yeah, play it as I went. I didn't look at the points at all, really. I knew I was 24 points behind, but I thought I've just got to come in it as I have done the others. No pressure. I've enjoyed it. If I finish second, I finish second. But yeah, it kind of worked.
Oh, indeed, it worked quite well. Although in qualifying, interestingly, we did see the fact that, like you say, Mikey was looking quick and Sight Anti looked quick as well.
Yeah.
I mean, how did you deal with that? Did you just have to sort of put it aside and think it's just one lap, the race is the race?
Yeah. I've never been quick at qualifying. I hate it. I absolutely hate qualifying. And it shows more in the race. As soon as the race starts, I'm picking 4 or 5 spots up at a time, and it's just I'm much better at the consistency in the race. So, yeah, hate it. Hate qualifying.
Well, you definitely gave us a great display at the start of the race as we saw Mikey propelled out to the right, coming out to the old hairpin. I mean, just take us through what that opening lap must have felt like from your perspective. I mean, was there a bit of a jump up and down in your chair as you saw him go to the right?
I didn't see it. I genuinely, I was concentrating on where everyone was, and I saw there was cars, but I didn't see it was Mikey. And I come round and I thought, where is he? And then I said to Peter, where is he? And he just, because my teammate Peter Holt, and he just said, oh, he's behind me. I went, oh my God, that was it.
Well, a dramatic start for him, but nonetheless, he did go on to quite a bit of a recovery drive, and from that point onwards, it looks like you were constantly trying to chase down Sight Anthony, but whatever you did, you couldn't get the gap down.
No, Sight he was too quick today. He was too quick. I was starting to get quicker at the end there, but it was just too late. Yeah, congrats to him for winning the race. I couldn't catch him today.
Well, to be fair, you didn't need to beat him in order to become champion, but as the race went on, we saw Mikey start to close back up and move back into 3rd place. Was there a bit of you that sort of started thinking, you know what, just pray that something will happen?
Yeah, I just thought, just keep it on the track. I saw him coming up the leaderboard on the standings there on iOverlay that I've got, and I just saw Mikey Stewart. I thought, oh no, he's coming. And then all of a sudden he disappeared. And I was like, where's he gone? Where's he gone? And I think he mucked his fuel up, I believe, he said. Or the auto fuel mucked up or something, so.
Oh, well, definitely he had to come in for a quick splash and dash. And after that, I mean, really, it was a couple of laps between you and the championship crown. Did those feel the longest laps of your life so far?
Yes, it's terrible. It's really easy to make a mistake. It's so easy to, right, all I've got to do is 2 more laps, and you just think, right, and it's so easy to outbrake yourself. It's so easy to spin it. It really is. But yeah, it's good fun.
Well, you had a lot of fun out there, and come the finish line, becoming our provisional inter-champion. I mean,
cheers, mate.
when you look back at the season, what have been your perhaps favourite moment or moments?
Oh, for sure, this one, all of it really. I mean, I like the battle. That was fun. I didn't have the best of starts, and I was a bit unlucky at Suzuka. I was quite quick at Suzuka, but I just got spun out at the beginning, and I didn't really get many points there. But yeah, all of it. I've enjoyed the battles. I've had some clean racing, and it's been great fun.
Oh, fantastic. And in terms of sort of your future plans, I mean, have you got any other leagues planned? Or are you thinking of coming back for season 19?
Yeah, I've already signed up for season 19. And other ones, not so much because it just work and stuff like that. And Sunday night's perfect, so it kind of just works.
Oh, fantastic. Well, whether you're back to defend your crown in Inter in season 19 or going up to Pro to take it to the very best, we can't wait for that. But of course, it's your day and it's your moment to give a shout out to anyone you want to. Is there anyone you'd like to say thank you or a shout out to?
Yes, of course. My parents are watching. I will shout out to them because I got told off last week for not shouting out to them. Good luck charms sat behind me, so it obviously works. It's a thing now. That's it. She's not having another day off. And my team, absolutely, Peter and Tim. We just did the Majors 24 yesterday. They finished today, and we got P2 in that as well. And yeah, they are absolutely legends, and couldn't do it without them.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's crazy to think that you guys have jumped from the car in Le Mans straight into Donington Park and you've delivered. Hayden, we'll leave you to it. Congratulations today.
Cheers,
and
mate.
well deserved. Go celebrate. Have a great time with your girlfriend and with your mum and dad. And we will see you back in season 19 to see if you can hold on to the crown or take it in pro.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Have a good day.
So hearing that, ladies and gentlemen, from Hayden Young, and we're over the moon with regards to it, and the Send It Racing driver going all in and giving a big thank you to his teammates. And what a round. A roller coaster ride of his own, and immediately in qualifying, and so the fact he doesn't like qualifying, it's the thing he hates, and we'll see himself qualify behind Mikey Stewart and also Cy Anti. But in the race, well, he didn't know what had happened until his teammate Peter radioed in to say, I've got Mikey Stewart back here now with me, several places behind. But of course, Mikey Stewart went on that recovery drive, only to need that splash and dash of fuel right at the very end. And the Send It Racing driver, well, he never gave up, and that's the thing as well. And I do like the way he really framed it as though he did what he could to control the championship, and it was up to Mikey to see how he would take it or whether he would lose it. And of course, strategy worked out in his favour. But mention the fact that this has been his favourite round, but he's enjoyed the season as a whole, and he'll be back in season 19. And we very much look forward to seeing our Inter champion coming back, and whether it's to defend the crown or move on to pro and take up to some of the best competition out there. I'll tell you one thing, Hayden has been an absolute star this season, and I can't wait to see him back in season 19 and how far he can go. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got plenty more interviews to come. We'll be right back, and we're staying with the theme of champions. But are we going to pro or are we going to club? Well, we'll find out very shortly. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to say that joining me in the interview room is the man who's not just your provisional club champion, but he now holds the record for the most points ever scored in a single season in the UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship. It's Martin Kenyon. Martin, good evening to you. What a way to end the season. I mean, that's got to be your best win of the season.
Yeah, it was really, wasn't it? I walked it basically. I think the Lambo had a performance advantage at Donington this week, so I think that was sort of made it a bit easier for me to get that record and finish out the season on a high. So pleased with that.
Oh, indeed, a huge performance. And I know you mentioned there the fact that there might be a bit of a performance advantage, balanced performance-wise for the Lamborghini here at Donington Park, but it takes a driver to put a lap together. That qualifying lap for pole, a very impressive lap. I mean, were you expecting a good lap? Is this a circuit you typically go well at?
It's a bit hit and miss for me, this track, to be fair. It's not one of my favourite tracks. I'm sort of pretty average, to be fair. But as I say, the Lambo's been very good here, so it's sort of the car more than anything.
Well, may have had mixed results in the past, but definitely not a mixed qualifying performance. And then going racing, we did see you maintain quite a comfortable gap throughout the race to the likes of Jordan Butler and Grant Miller. I mean, given you had really no risk of losing unless you finished 12th or lower today and Grant Miller was to take the win, did that change your perspective on the race, or was it still very much head down, I want those 1,000 points?
It was very much head down. I was very nervous on that one because there was a few collisions going through down towards the old hairpin, I think it is. A few cars were in front of me, so I had to like proper back it off there. And then, yeah, there was like some pros coming through, and I thought I'd just let them through in the race. So I was just taking it steady more than anything. After my pit stop, I came out right behind the people in like second and third. So I basically had a pit stop in hand as well, so it wasn't too much of an issue after that.
And just on that, I mean, it's always great when you're leading by such an advantage and essentially strategically you're already ahead by a pit stop. But were you shocked at the fact you did come out right behind the leading battle for second through to fourth in club? And in a way, you're almost getting ready to overtake them all again.
I wanted to make sure I got a result, so I actually ended up putting a couple of litres of extra fuel in because I think I came in right with was it Nevan Anstis who I was racing with most at race, and he came out ahead of him by a couple of seconds, and I came out a couple of seconds behind that group. So it's sort of me being safe, put me behind him more than anything. So I don't know.
Well, to be fair, I think it was a smart call from yourself to play it safe and then guarantee you getting home. And in the end, after 42 laps, the only club driver to finish on the lead lap today, seeing that Checker flag and the championship crown and the record. I mean, was it a big sigh of relief? Did it feel like that was the longest final lap of the season?
Actually, no. For the last couple of laps, I was actually pushing the car a lot. I was trying to get a lap time in a 1:25. So I was pushing all the way through after like last 10 laps just to challenge myself a bit more.
Oh, goodness me. Well, pushing yourself every step of the way, no doubt about it. And a brilliant way to end the season. But when you look back on the season, is there one moment or a couple of moments that will be your highlights of the season?
Every race has been a highlight, really. I've had no faults at any track. Couple of slight issues in the wet weather, but they were fun to drive anyway. So I think performance-wise, I couldn't have done any better. So it's just been like that all season.
Well, fair play. I mean, you have been an absolute weapon to contend with out there in the club class, and you put a phenomenal season together. So looking ahead now to next season, what's next for yourself? Is it come back for season 19 and move into Inter?
It is definitely. I won't be in the Lambo next season. I'm thinking about swapping to the NSX because no one's driving it.
Oh, fair play. Trying to move to the Japanese car the Japanese-American car, I should say. That's definitely caught out a few in the past, but we'll have to see if you can tame it. And just before we do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to on the broadcast?
It's just everyone in club in general, yourself, all the admins, the stewards, all done a great job this season. Everyone on track. I think this has been by far the cleanest season with SRI I've had it. So it's been top notch. So thank you to everyone.
Oh, I'm 100% with you on that. It's been a phenomenally clean season up and down the field, and especially in club, like you say, Martin. Congratulations once again on becoming our provisional club champion for season 18 and the holder of the points record. So much so that I don't know if you've seen, it's actually broken the spreadsheets that are used in the background, the number of points you've gained. We've never thought we'd see some with 4 digits to the name. You are our record holder now. Congratulations. We'll leave you to it, and we'll see you in season 19.
Thank you. See you later.
Here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Martin Kenyon, the Pistep Racing driver, who today did it all absolutely right. And very interesting there, talking about the fact he did weigh it quite heavily towards the Lamborghini. I think he's not cutting himself enough credit, to be fair. Although I get it from his perspective, I think it's a bit of modesty as well, but a strong car, no doubt about it. But it takes the driver to get the most out of it. And this Lamborghini, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, and this Lamborghini, not a popular car, because if it was that great a car, then everyone would theoretically be driving it. But of course, he's picked the car, It's worked out very nicely for him, but he's still got to hustle it around the circuit with that monster pole lap in the class, followed up by outrageous pace lap after lap. Well, Martin really was the king of the machinery in the club class today. Indeed, for the whole season, it's been that way to an extent, with 6 wins, and also in terms of his runner results. Well, the only time he didn't finish on the podium was in a single round, and that was in round number 5, all the way back at Brands Hatch. And he's had some struggles in the wet, but he's never missed the podium when the points have counted most. And we're going to season 19. He's looking forward to the thought of being back in the interclass, and we look forward to seeing him up there and seeing whether he can take the fight to the second tier and how high he can go in his first visit to it. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got more interviews to come, and coming up next, we're heading to pro. We're going to speak to our third Drivers' Champion. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining me now in the interview room is none other than your provisional pro champion. It is Harvey Wheeler. Harvey, good evening to you. What an end to the season. At one moment, it's all in your grasp. The next moment, it's not. I mean, what a roller coaster ride it's been.
Yeah, it was very stressful. The craziest race of it I think I've ever done. I mean, that kind of sums it up. The craziest race I've ever done. Not too much else to say about it. It was like a roller coaster ride, like you said. I'm very happy to have won. It's been great.
Oh, 100%. And of course, it's a very special day for yourself today because of the fact it's not just the Pro Championship crown, but also it's the Provisional Teams Championship crown as well, alongside none other than, I do believe, Tom Wheeler, unless I'm mistaken, your uncle. So, I mean, it must make you doubly proud.
Yeah, definitely. During the race, I wasn't expecting us to get the teams as well. So it was a very nice surprise after the race to see that we had one. Tom's been a good teammate, so he's helped us come quite far in that championship. And yeah, it was definitely very, very good for us to win that. Good motivation for next season.
Oh, 100%. And to try and break this race down a little bit to tell the story, I mean, qualifying-wise, we saw you take what was 4th place in qualifying, 3rd in the class, with Mikey Stewart just beating you on that second row. Were you worried in qualifying that you might be a bit down on pace?
Yeah, I knew I could go a bit faster in qualifying, but I just couldn't extract that pace at the end of the qualifying. And when I saw that Mikey had gone faster than me, I was a little disappointed because that meant that Anton Kilo was closer to me. And I felt that was a slight disadvantage, but I knew I had the pace, and it was just about using that pace in the race.
All fair play. And when we did go racing, of course, a bit of a dramatic start with Mikey Stewart being propelled one way coming out the old hairpin, and you're able to move a bit closer. But what we did see was that Adam Watson and Thomas Noakes were able to creep away. Was it they were just too quick, or was it because you were so caught up in battling with Anton Kalo?
I think both at Donington, Adam and Thomas Noakes, they were both faster than me, which was a bit disappointing. I'd done quite a bit of practice for this race, but it is what it is. And Anton, he defended me very well, so it was very tricky fighting him. I lost a lot of time trying to get past, and I didn't get past. And that was mainly where I lost the time with the fighting. But even if Anton wasn't there, I think they would have still pulled away a little bit, maybe not as much.
I see. And well, whilst they pulled away and you were battling with Anton, we then saw what strategy first play out. And a bit interesting in the strategy because we did see you lose out a little bit more. And in fact, I do believe you dropped even behind Tim Probert. I mean, were you keeping track of where you needed to finish versus where Thomas Noakes was planning to finish?
I was planning to finish in the top 3 so that I could like guarantee that I win. But after I qualified fourth, and Thomas qualified second, it was just a matter of staying close enough to him so that I would still win the championship, because I knew there was a chance I might not come third. And I wasn't able to fuel save because I thought I would lose too much pace fuel saving and lose some positions. But Tim did fuel save, which meant that he could go a few laps longer, meaning he could take less fuel in the pits. And yeah, he came out ahead of me, which was made me quite sad.
Oh, understandable. However, whilst it might have been sad at the time, how did you react when you saw the instant between Anton and Tim down at the third of the hairpins that would have been at Goddard's? I mean, was that a complete shock to you? Because it seems like going into Redgate Corner, you couldn't believe it when you tried to go around the outside of Anton only moments later.
Yeah, I mean, my heart rate spiked. I don't know if it's ever been that high. Yeah, it was a complete shock. I wasn't expecting it. And when I saw that Kilo had damage on the start-finish straight, I was like, yes, come on. And then I tried to go around the outside of him. There was some contact, but I mean, I got back past him in the end. So yeah, it was lucky. It was almost a miracle that happened, and yeah, I was very happy with it.
And right, you should be, because in the end, after passing him and his drive-through penalty, opened up the doorway for you to return to being the provisional champion in the pro class. And at the finish, finishing third, just behind your rival, but knowing that's all you needed was third place. I mean, that final lap, how did it feel? Did it feel like it was the longest lap in your life, or was it just one of those laps whereby everything just clicked together?
Yeah, it was the longest lap of my life. After I saw that Thomas had dropped back, and he was with me, I was still confused there, but it was the longest lap of my life, probably one of the happiest laps of my life, and yeah, I was speechless, dazed, and I was just hoping that we won the team's championship as well at that point, because I knew that I'd won the pro class championship. So it was a very happy last lap for me, and I just hope that I didn't get crashed off.
Well, rightly so. You deserve to be that happy because, like you say, a very happy end to the season. Pro Championship crown and the team's crown as well. And therefore, what's next for yourself? Is it come back in season 19 and defend your title?
Yeah, I think my plan for season 19 is just going to be to, well, just do better. You can't do much better than winning the title, but just do better in the races. I like to have not a single DNF next season because I have one this season. Just be a little bit more consistent and I'll just get better results. Finish inside the top 3 consistently every race, and then I'll be satisfied and then go again probably the season after that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we look forward to seeing you back in season 19, looking to become an even better driver. I mean, like I say, you can always get quicker, you can always improve, and I think that mentality definitely enshrined in you. Just before we do let you go, Harvey, is there anyone you'd like to give a thank you or a shout out to on the broadcast?
Thank you to my team, Tom. Thank you to my whole family for supporting us all the way through, watching all the broadcasts and showing lots of support. Thank you to my friends for watching this broadcast, and just thank you to all my competitors because it was a very fun season and I enjoyed it a lot. So thank you to everyone and you, Paul.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Harvey. We love to put it on, and a huge thank you to you for joining me for an interview. And again, with that, we'll leave it there. Go have a lovely rest of your evening. Go celebrate. You are a provisional pro and part of the team's champions for season 18. And we'll see you back in season 19.
Yeah. Thank you, Paul. See you season 19.
So hearing there, a very speechless Harvey Wheeler. And remember, he's one of the youngest members on our grid, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, an incredible drive. And a huge thank you as well. We must say a big thank you to his dad, Max, for giving us permission to interview Harvey Wheeler, because we do take the safeguarding the youngsters here at SimRacing International very seriously, all part of Motorsport UK's Code of Conduct. But the Aversa Rapid by Freewheeler Racing driver here today, openly admitting the fact that going into this one, knowing exactly what he needed to do, which was finish third or higher. That was his target to guarantee it, but when he qualified a bit further back, knowing the challenge was going to be ahead of him. How he didn't give up, constantly knowing what he needed to do, but realised as the race went on that strategy was going against him, and the pace of the race was such he couldn't fuel save, and that is how we saw Tim Probert get ahead of him. But then that drama at this very corner coming through Goddard's right towards the end of the race, where Anton Kilo and Tim Probert made contact, suddenly the race unfolded the opposite way from what was looking to be a sad end to season for Harley to sunny jubilant joy, although he had to make sure that he still kept on the road all the way to the end. And, well, no matter what, MK Sim Sports, Thomas Noakes couldn't find a way to stay ahead on points versus Harvey Wheeler, and that's how he got the job done. But of course, also a special moment in not just being pro champion, but being part of the team that's won the team championship at Versa Rapid by Freewheeler Racing. And, well, it really will feel like a dream going to sleep tonight. But, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we've got more interviews to come. And, well, we're staying in the pro class next, but we've got somebody else who we're speaking to. Hold on to your hats. We'll be back very shortly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a slight technical issue. We do apologise. We're just going to fix that technical issue. There we go, that's better. We've got the right driver on screen and labelled now. We do apologise for that. These technical blips always come up every so often, because joining me now in the interview room, we don't want any technical blips when it comes to this man, Adam Watson, who joins me in the interview room now. And, well, we may have just had a blip on our broadcast, but Adam, you looked absolutely faultless again today. This was Road Atlanta Mark II.
Yeah, it's quite a fun one. This track's pretty good, and I really enjoy it. So it was nice to. I think the gap was very much exaggerated.
Now, the gap may have been a bit exaggerated, given the importance of the championship fight going on behind you. And narrowness of the gap, we did see right at the start in qualifying, pole position by 92 thousandths ahead of Thomas Noakes. I get the feeling that was the pole lap you were very proud of.
Yeah, I was very happy with that lap. I mean, I could have gone a little bit quicker. I just kept running wide. I wasn't 100% with the setup. I was trying a few different things, and I probably made the wrong step on the setup, so I couldn't get the 0.1. But yeah, no, I was very happy with that lap. It was a pretty good lap.
Well, great lap, but given the gaps, I mean, did you expect straight away the race was going to be a game of cat and mouse, at least for the first stint between yourself and Thomas?
I thought Thomas would be aggressive with me, but I just knew certain points of the track I was very much quicker than him, so I was fuel saving. So even if he tries to get by me, I knew what I'd have to do. So I had everything planned out, what I was going to do. So whatever Thomas did didn't really phase me that too much.
Oh, I see. And in terms of that plan, was it a similar situation like what we saw at Road Atlanta last week, whereby your first stint was very much protect the car, protect the fuel, and then the second stint was drop the hammer and just go for it?
A bit like that, yeah. So I saw it on the. I did a little bit of fuel saving in qualifying because I had one less. I was just short, so I thought I'd see what fuel saving is like, see what the numbers are. Got the numbers fine, and kind of knew what I needed to hit to get to 29 laps. It's like people won't fuel save that hard to get to 29 laps if I do it. I thought Thomas might have done, but he didn't. But yeah, it was. I said, yeah, it was just he didn't really attack me as I thought he would do, and just a fuel save, and then yeah, a bit like Road Atlanta. I fuel saved and I saw Thomas pit, and I was like, well, he's got to. If I'm fuel saving, he hasn't. He would have to underfuel massively to outdo me, but then he's got to be heavy on fuel, so he's not gonna undercut me. So yeah, so as soon as I saw Thomas pit, I was like, I'm good on fuel now to just put the hammer down and put in some fast laps.
Indeed, some absolutely incredible laps from yourself as well after the pit stop. We saw you gradually open that gap. Now, of course, the gap itself a bit more pronounced than it perhaps should have been, because we did see the MK Simsport driver drop back to try and do what he could in order to be able to hold on to the chance of the Pro Championship. But for yourself, a 4th win this season. I know we talked about it a little bit last time at Road Atlanta, that feeling of if results had gone your way a little bit earlier on in the season, you could have been in that fight. But a happy end to the season with this 4th win. She definitely got to show everyone, at least at Donington Park at Road Atlanta, you and the McLaren are king.
Yeah, as I said, as we spoke about at Road Atlanta, this race is very much this season's been very much up and down, clashes with real life, with what I do for work, and being obviously a race mechanic. I've not been able to get back in time, and I joined the season late as well, so kind of I've missed three or four rounds just in that way. But yeah, and then obviously I had Brands Hatch went didn't go according to plan, and then Suzuka really didn't go according to plan. Yeah, so I think in a way the championship I wasn't too focused on. I would have battled Thomas whether he was battling for the championship or not. In my head it was, I'm going to try and get this win because this is just like a proven to people, you know, if I was able to do the full race then I could have battled for the championship. So yeah, we'll see what happens next season.
Now that nicely brings us on to next season. So season 19, can we expect you back?
Yes, I've definitely signed up. It'll be with the Altitude Esports paint, but currently in talks with Simcast to do a bit of a collaboration. So, because I'm the only one from the Altitude team doing the series, and I think there's 3 or 4 from Simcast, so we're doing might do a bit of a collaboration there to just put a team together.
All fair play. That would be a brilliant team up, to be fair. You've got all the spirit of Simcast Racing UK and, well, your own spirit, plus also the pace that you bring each and every week. But will it be the McLaren again?
I am tempted. The McLaren's a weird choice because not everyone likes it. It's very quirky traction-wise, and there is a lot better cars like the Merc and cars like that. So I am thinking the McLaren again. It's definitely one of the choices, but I need to see. It's because we've got another iRacing update coming on, so we just need to see what the changes they might bring to the cars. If it's not the McLaren, then it probably might be the Merc, or don't know. But I think it will be the McLaren.
Well, whether it's the Mercedes or the McLaren, we look forward to seeing what you bring to the table when season 19 gets underway. And Adam, just as I get ready to let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a big thank you or a shout out to on the broadcast tonight?
SRO for putting on a really good championship, you for putting on really good streams and broadcasts for everyone. The Altitude Esports team, just it's great to be part of that team, and obviously Mr. Jonathan Walker for the free and backing. It's good to have that backing and such a big brand to display for the team.
Well, Adam, we have to give you a big thank you for joining me in the interior room and putting on a superb display. A 4th win today, a very well managed and measured race route. Indeed, also incredible pace in that McLaren. And whether you bring it or a different machine to the grid for season 19, we look forward to seeing what you're bringing to the table then, whether you can go the full distance for the crown next time. But until then, congratulations on the win and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you, you too.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from a very happy and pleased Adam Watson. And intriguing there, talking about the fact he did feel as though in qualifying there was a little bit more to be delivered perhaps in his pole lap. And also in the race, he was a little bit surprised perhaps by the fact that Thomas Noakes was not able to match him for the number of laps that he did. But of course, cognizant of the fact there was a championship fight going on behind him and really just focusing on his own race. And I do like the way, in a way, the whole championship fight played out behind him, but Adam Watson really was in a bit of a world of his own, just enjoying going for the win and showing what he could do. And of course, it has been one of those seasons whereby if things had just gone a little bit different, he could have been in that fight. But season 19 is where he's planning to be in the fight, and whether he brings this McLaren, or certainly the Mercedes, or another machine, well, I'll tell you one thing, teaming up with SimCast Racing UK, they will be a very powerful team, not just individual drivers in the respective Drivers' Championships, but also in the Teams Championship. And I suspect Adam Watson is definitely going to be one of the early season favourites based on how he's performed this season. And we definitely look forward to seeing him back on the grid for our 19th installment. It's a bit of a shame we don't get to see a full altitude esports complement come in to drivers on the team, but I do appreciate they're very busy. Indeed, they're one of the busiest and biggest sim racing teams in iRacing, ladies and gentlemen. And the fact we do have Adam Watson race our series, we are extremely grateful for, because his talents, well, you've seen them on display here today. But with that, we've got a couple more interviews still to come, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back for what is our 5th interview in this bumper edition of Interviews, our season finale. And well, ladies and gentlemen, it's only fair that if we've spoken to some of our champions, we need to speak to some of our runner-ups. And we're going to be coming now to the interclass, because joining me in the interview room is none other than Mikey Stewart. Mikey, good evening to you. And it hasn't been the day you've wanted, but my goodness, have you given it everything to try and end the season on a high? How has it felt coming out of this, knowing you're runner-up, but you never gave up?
It's been a roller coaster of emotions, that's for sure. Like, as soon as the race finished, I was extremely disheartened and didn't really want to talk to anybody. But then I kind of sat there and was just like, at the end of the day, I didn't think I was going to do well in this championship, and I've come out second, so that's a win for me.
Well, to be fair, given your expectations going into the season versus how you've come out of it, I think that's a really good way to reflect upon it. Of course, like you say, in the heat of the moment, not wanting to talk to anyone, nobody can blame you for that. The emotions always run high, even if the race is not real. Every emotion and investment is. Qualifying, however, what a way to send a statement out there. 3rd overall polling class. I mean, was there more time out there? Was that the lap?
I think there was actually a little bit more time in it, to be fair. The McLaren just felt so fast around here, so yeah, I think I could have done a little bit more, but it was putting the lap together and not getting stuck in traffic, which the traffic definitely slowed me down a little bit, but still to get 3rd, I was really happy with that.
Oh, I'll say an absolutely brilliant lap there, and the fact there was more pace out there just showed what you brought to the table. Well, of course, it started off with a strong qualifying. What happened on lap 1?
I don't really know. I just came through turn 4, and I think I just took a little bit too much curb on cold tyres, and the car bounced and sent me round, and I was just like, well, there it goes. And then it was just a case of drive like a man possessed to try and get it back.
Well, it may have come loose, like you say, cold tyres, and the old hairpin always catching out a driver, whether it's in a GT3 or any other machine, but you didn't give up, and we saw you very rapidly start to claw your way through the field. I mean, by I think it was around 20 minutes into the race, you're already back into 4th place, and it would have meant that you would have taken the crown at that point. Were you keeping tabs on where you needed to finish, or was it just, I've just got to get closer and closer to Hayden Young?
I thought I needed to at least get 3rd. I wasn't sure if 4th would do it, so I was like, I'll go for 3rd. At least then I know I've got it. So it was just push like hell. Obviously, the first car I came up to was his teammate Peter, and I was like, he's gonna defend for his life. Like, he's gonna try and help Hayden out. So I was like, I need to make a gap, like, just to get around him. And to be fair, the fight I had with Peter and Jake was great fun. Was definitely elbows out, but that was so much fun. But yeah, once I managed to get it up there, I was just like, right, hold it together now. And yeah, then the pit stop came, and that ruined everything.
Well, indeed. Now, on the pit stop, I know I'm making you relive probably the darkest moment of your season in a way. Was it just simply a bit of an underfuel, perhaps not predicting the 40-second lap would come about? What happened?
So when I came in the pit, as it started fueling, I looked, and it was going to put in a full tank, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? Why is that happening? And then I tried to quickly stop it, and in stopping it, it then just stopped putting fuel in altogether, and I didn't realise how much I had in, and panicked, and then drove out the pit. And then as I came out the pit, I looked, and I was like, oh no, I haven't got enough fuel. I've ruined it there. Like, I tried to save the fuel afterwards, because I thought I might have been able to save enough, but I was driving so slow and it wasn't enough, so I had to come in and get more fuel.
Oh, it's a shame it's the way it's played out. A bit of a technical hitch there, but still, you didn't give up. You went back out there once again, and in the end, a 6th in the interclass, not enough. But to be fair, as championships go, it has been a championship whereby you may not have been the champion, but many will see you as someone who could have been champion if things had just blown a different way in the wind. Speaking about some of the positives, are there any highlights that you've got of this season, or sort of things that you'll always remember?
I mean, the first round was great fun at Hockenheim. You know, the big moment of going 3 wide into a corner that's barely even 2 wide. That was great fun, and that was when I realised, oh, I've actually got good pace and can actually have really good fun in this championship. And then every other race win that I got was always a good point, obviously. And then this race was at first, because I was like, oh, I've got really good pace. I can actually dominate this race and, you know, end the championship with a bang. And then, yeah, obviously it didn't go that way.
And just off the back of that, of course, I mean, we talk a lot about drivers' championships, but another positive perhaps today being the fact that yourself and Thomas Pugh have been crowned provisional 3rd place runners-up in the Teams Championship for Axis Sim Sports with SimCoach. I mean, that must be a positive as well.
Yeah, we were talking about it throughout the whole race as well. We were trying to figure out where we needed to be to, you know, secure 3rd, if we could manage to possibly secure 2nd. So we were both trying to just get a really solid result, so we could at least hold on to 3rd. And yeah, we were both pleased with that. But yeah.
Well, a pleasing result there in the Teams Championship, even if it wasn't a pleasing result, let's say, in the Inter Championship. But for yourself, what's next? Does it come back to the grid on season 19 and finally take that crown?
Yeah, I will be back next season. Whether I'm in Inter or Pro, I don't actually know yet. But if I'm in Inter, then Hayden can definitely know I will be gunning for him and I will be taking that championship away.
Oh, brilliant. I'm loving the sound of that already. A rivalry reignited for season 19. Well, I can say that'll be a blockbuster amount of entertainment for us. But just as we get ready to let you go, Mikey, is there anyone you'd like to give a mention or a shout out to on the broadcast?
All my Axis teammates again, just as I said before, like if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't even be here. So yeah, they've definitely helped me out and supported me throughout all of this. So it's been great. SRI themselves for organising all of this, and yourself for these great broadcasts. I do enjoy watching them afterwards. And a shout out to Hayden. You know, big congratulations for winning the championship, because realistically, the second half of the season it was his to win. You know, he did do phenomenal the second half of the season. So yeah, good on him.
Oh, I'm sure he'll appreciate the shout out and the camaraderie and rivalry the two of you have had. Mikey, we'll leave it there. Congratulations on a recovery drive in the end that saw you just fall so close to taking the Inter crown. Season 19 may just be the season for you to take it, but it's not happened today. But congratulations on the results either way, and we will see you again in a few weeks' time. But until then, have a lovely rest of your evening.
And you, mate. Thank you.
Here and there, ladies and gentlemen, from Mikey Stewart for Axis Sim Sports with SimCoach. And understandably, in the heat of the moment, like he said there, as soon as he'd finished the race, dejected, didn't want to speak to anyone. And it's so tragic the way it's fallen about, simply because of an issue with the refueling gun in the pit lane. And in the end, well, not putting the right amount of fuel in and having to come in for that splash and dash, no matter how much time he tried to save. And we've seen that pit stop already play out here on the replay footage. But taking it graciously, to be fair, and talking out there the fact this season has really been a season of 2 halves, with the first half of the season, with that monster 3-wide moment he was mentioned at the Hockenheim ring, really defining that Mikey Stewart was the driver to beat in the interclass in the first 5 rounds, and in the second half of the season, Hayden Young really came alive. And of course, with the Showdown format, those final 3 rounds have proven so decisive. A new format for this season, we're keeping it for season 19, we'll tell you a bit more about that very shortly, but you've just seen how it's played out into the hands of Hayden Young. But Mikey never gave up. It's not as though Hayden Young dominated. It's just that Mikey was always just a step behind. But today, he was a step ahead until it all came loose at the old hairpin and then fighting upstream. But in the end, the current washed him away. And sadly, provisional into runner-up instead of champion. But on the plus side, 3rd place in the Teams Championship alongside Thomas Pugh for Axis Sim Sports with SimCoach. There's always a silver lining, and we'll see him come back even stronger in season 19. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we've got one more interview to come. We'll be right back very shortly for our final interview of the season. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining me for our final interview of Season 18 of the Sunday GT3 Championship. We stay in the interclass, but we now come to Jack Barker for Made for Racing, who brings on home a podium today. Jack, good evening to you, and I know we spoke a little bit before this round, earlier on this week. A podium right at the end of the season. It may not be third place in the championship versus Cy Anthony, but a good end to the season.
Oh yeah, there's absolutely, Paul, and I say it's great to be back in the interview booth once again after so long. P3 overall, no, P3 in the race. Yeah, better than I was expecting. Really unfortunate there for Mikey at the end, as you were saying with the refueling mistake. It was I was sad to see him have to peel in from just in front of me, and but yeah, ended the season repairing for myself. So yeah, always happy.
It was a good start as well. In qualifying, we saw you take 4th in class, 16th overall. Was that with a lap that you were happy with, or was there more time out there?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I went to my first long stint run, and think by the end of it, I was more than happy with the lap I'd set. So I spent the rest of qualifying just sat in the pits, having a breather, preparing for the race.
And well, a valuable breather when we did go racing. I mean, there was plenty of drama at the start of the race, and you found yourself right in the middle of a pack of 34 cars going downhill through the Hollywood to Craner curves. I mean, that must have been exciting.
Yeah, so goodness, I have no idea what happened there. All I know is that I managed to get through it safe. Yeah. Things happened. I was lucky enough that this is one instance where I managed to get through it safely. Yeah, no, it was definitely an exciting start to the race.
Now, an exciting start, but plenty more excitement was to come, because in the end, with Mikey Stewart fighting his way back up through the field, it was really for yourself to be battling for 4th place at the time with the likes of Peter Holt and Jake Buttett. How was that? Because you and Jake, of course, have a little bit of a rivalry for the 4th place, but otherwise it's just anything goes.
Oh yes, what so I was very happy to see Jake and Peter be so close, and very thankful that I was able to get that slight gap to them at the start of the race, and then see them battling so hard, and then see Mikey come into it, and the 3 of them battle really hard. I was really happy with that. So it really allowed me to get in that gap to Jake that I was looking for. Because yeah, I think I spoke about it earlier. Yeah, championship wise, and my focus for this race was just holding on to 4th place. So making sure to beat Jake and secure the 4th.
Oh, fair play, a good target to have, and you definitely secured that. And in terms of strategy here, we saw some drivers gamble on going for a very early undercut. Some just ran the fuel tank as long as possible. Adam Watson extending that fuel tank for a very long period of time. What was your strategy?
I just drove, really. I don't normally have many exciting strategies unless you're looking at like multiple stops or like wet weather. But yeah, no, I was just in clean air for like 90% of the race. So yeah, I was just in sort of no man's land. So I just thought, I'm all right here, you know. Let's not rock the boat. Let's just just stay here and then pit when I need to.
Well, definitely the right call. And we saw in the end, after the pit stop, drive a very solid race to what would have been 4th, but then promoted to 3rd with the unfortunate late pit stop for Mikey Stewart. A 3rd place, a final podium this season. I do believe that being, therefore, none other than your 3rd podium of the season, coincidentally. 2 3rds and a 2nd. Not quite a win this season, but when you look back at the season, do you have any highlights that come to mind?
Oh yeah, so the highlight season has to be the race at Suzuka, with the wet weather, qualifying as well as did. Yes, we have to have the incident in there, but you know we soldiered on. We kept going, and yeah, the strategy call of that made to do the short fuel and stick on the wets for coming into the dries and get full fuel. I think that was a really good play by myself, and yeah, for a track where I normally have like a big incident at Suzuka, I seem to be cursed there normally. It was really great to have a not cursed race and to come home in 2nd. So I believe it was Tom who ended up inheriting the win at Suzuka. Yeah, so really happy with that. Nevertheless.
Oh, indeed, a great result there. And like your memory correctly says, Tom Cordy taking the in-to-win, his sole win of the season there when he bowed out afterwards. But for yourself, great results across the season. And what's next? Can we expect you back for season 19?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for the season from our turn, so as well as being driver on the grid, I joined Nathan in the administration booth. So it's been great this season running the series alongside him and with the support of both James and Rob at SRI, and yeah, looking onwards and upwards for season 19.
Oh, fantastic. And I do have to ask, because it's been an interesting journey for yourself over the last couple of years. We've seen you go from mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars now to the Aston Martin front-engine rear-wheel drive. Are you planning to stick with the Aston for season 19, or is it too early to say?
I think the decision's fairly obvious for myself. The Aston hasn't tried to end my race at any point with this season. So whilst it's been very fun, I'll have to say it was very fun running the Lambo and running with the NSX at points. Yeah, it'll be sticking with the Aston now. Been really enjoying the FR stability, but with the Aston's characteristic of being a really on-the-nose car and being the most turny of the front engines.
Oh, fantastic. We look forward to seeing the made for racing the Sir Bottle Job Aston Martin back in season 19. But just before I do let you go, is there anyone else you would like to give a shout out or a mention to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier, shout outs to Nathan. It's been great to run the series alongside him, and to James and Rob for supporting us as well. And also shout out to yourself for obviously these amazing broadcasts, which I've been watching when we've been doing those post rounds early in the season. And also shout out to the shooting team who've been doing an excellent job this season.
Oh, they'll definitely appreciate the shout out there. Work behind the scenes always goes a little bit unnoticed perhaps, but it matters when it does matter most. But Jack, with that, congratulations on your return to the podium, your third podium of the season, and ending your season 4th place in the Inter Championship. We look forward to seeing you back for season 19 and seeing whether you can push for the podium in the Championship or even push for the crown in the Interclass. But until then, my friend, have a lovely rest of your evening.
You too, Paul.
So here and there, ladies and gentlemen, for our final interview for the season, Jack Barker. So great to have him back in the interview room and talking out there a number of different things, including how happy he has been with the switch to Aston Martin for this season. A car that's given him the stability, but also the driving on the nose that he enjoys. And also, Carl just has not seen his races ruined. And that's been one of the biggest challenges he's had over the last couple of seasons. He's had some incredible results in the Acura, in the Lamborghini. But for every great result he's then had, what has become we've nicknamed it the divorce result, in his own words, whereby it's not been the result afterwards that's completely destroyed his enthusiasm for the car. But the Aston Martin has proven to be a very safe car for him. And it's shown this season. And particularly that huge gamble and strategy at Suzuka paid off. Not quite the win, but second place, not too far behind Tom Cordy. He'll remember that as much. He'll remember this 3rd place today. A very consistent drive to 4th place in the Championship and just making sure not to put a foot wrong and keeping ahead of his main rival, Jake Muttett. And, well, we look forward to seeing Jack Barker, indeed many of our Inter-drivers, back on the grid for season 19. But with that, we conclude our interviews, ladies and gentlemen, for this season. And what better way to talk about how we concluded our interviews than to give you a quick recap of who exactly we've spoken to. And as we can see, we've had a bit of a bumper edition when it comes to interviews here today, because we started off by interviewing none other than our leading 4 drivers there. You can see on screen Hayden Young for Sendit Racing, our provisional Inter-champion with the first of our 3 champions we interviewed. Then we came to the club class for Martin Kenyon for Pistet Racing, and then we made our way all the way up to the pro class for both your provisional pro and one member of the team's champions of Versa Rapid by Free Wheel Racing. It was Harvey Wheeler. Then we made our way to the overall and pro winner for today, Adam Watson for Altitude 3M Esports, before continuing the interviews, and we had 2 more who we interviewed. And that did, of course, include Mikey Stewart in the Interclass, and we're talking about his achievements. There's the Inter run-up for this season, and also Provisional Team's third place finish, Axis Sim Sports and Sim Coach, in collaboration with Thomas Pugh. And then we came to Jack Barker in the Interclass, Made for Racing, fourth in the Inter Championship, for ending the season on his third podium. And a huge thank you to all 6 of our interviewees for this bumper edition of interviews to wrap up the season. It's always great to speak to so many drivers. We must conclude it there. But before we begin to truly wrap up today's show, well, it's just a question of how exactly did everybody finish in the championships after a grand total of 10 rounds racing. Well, the great news, we have the visual standings, and here we go, straight to pro. And as we can see, starting with our pro top 12, Harvey Wheeler taking the crown on 823 points, 20 ahead of Thomas Noakes at MK Sim Sports, and the Averso Rapid by Freewheeler Racing Drive taking his maiden title in his SimRacing International Series career, and Thomas Noakes falling just slightly short. And how did it all change? Well, it all changed in the final 4 rounds. Those 2 technical issues with Noakes' Ferrari opened up the doorway to Harvey Wheeler, who was always in the picture. And to be fair, you could say with Thomas Noakes having those issues later on in the season, they were in sharp contrast and parallel to the issues that Wheeler had much earlier on with that non-finish in round number 2 and also 11th place finish in round number 4. But of course, at the end of the season, the showdown rounds, they're the ones that really saw the big points on the table. But in third, Tim Probert with a brilliant end to his season, albeit a little bit of a dark cloud to the instant right towards the end between himself and none other than Enson Kelo, but still third place that could not be denied to the Send It racing driver, and he was absolutely pleased, I suspect, with being third in the championship. Max Wheeler just sneaked his way to fourth with Carl Roy's retirement from this race by a single point. What an achievement for the Averso Fast by Freewheeler racing driver. He'll be pleased as punch, and Carl Roy sadly meeting his demise early on in the race at Axis Sim Sports with SimWorks ran off the top 5. A frustrated season for him, and a bit of a frustrated season as well for Adam Watson. When he was able to land those results, he took 4 wins out of the 6 rounds he finished. A phenomenal result. Or 6 rounds he competed in, we should say, because he did non-finish one of them, and expect the Altitude 3M Esports drive coming back for glory next season. Thomas Pugh 7th there, and what a solid 7th, just ahead of Casper Brockner, who then got the upper hand versus Nathan Anstis by only 6 points for Anstis, coming on strong today. The UKSimRacing Norris drive leaving it too late, or UKSimRacing and Hamilton drive leaving it too late to steal 8th place back, but he was ahead of Fotis Cassios, who slipped to 10th right at the finish. Darren Sharples and Archie Williams meanwhile completed your top 12 of the pros. In the Interclass, here we saw Hayden Young taking that crown by 24 points to the end, and well, it all came down to a misfueling for Mikey Stewart. But to be fair, I think it also, as Mikey Stewart did quite poetically say, the first half of the season was his, the second half of the season was Hayden Young, and the results tell you that story, even with the non-finish for Young in round number 6, where the points became ever more critical in the final 3 rounds. That's where Hayden Young stepped up. Not quite 3 wins back-to-back, but 2 wins and a 2nd place. Indeed, his best results of the season coming at the very end of the Send It racing drive, and Mikey Stewart gave him plenty of competition with the Axis Sim Sports Sim Coach drive, bringing home those 3 wins early on in the season, but it wasn't quite enough. Cy Anstey as well, a valiant 3rd place there, ending the season on his 3rd win and his 5th podium. And, well, he'll be very happy to know he's had a 50% hit rate this season with podiums. And what could it have been if the early rounds of the season had been a bit kinder to him? Could he have made it a 3-way fight? We'll never quite know. But he was able to outrun Jack Barker the 3rd. Barker taking that 4th place just ahead of Jake Muttett in the end. And we'll credit where it's due for the Made Racing driver and also the Phoenix Racing Blue driver. And Jake Muttett is going to be someone to watch out for. I hope we get to see him back on the grid for season 19. I would have loved to have spoken to him tonight. But I'll tell you one thing. He really has been a driver who has gone under the radar. Keep in mind, those first 4 rounds, 7th, 8th, 7th, 6th, then he missed round number 5, and that consistency slightly dipped in round 6, but he's been so strong this season. He has really gone under the radar, and I would say he's been one of the most improved drivers towards the end of the season. Luke Sherlock, he was the best part there, a little bit further behind. However, Luke, to be fair, in his own words, having some dismal qualifying points right at the end of the season, holding him back when he looked so strong in the mid-portion of the season. And behind the Darkwing Racing driver, it was Peter Holt who ran off those. He picked up trophies on 487 points, 4 behind Sherlock, but the best part there of 57 ahead of Tom Cordy, our winner at Suzuka, who will always be remembered for that brilliant drive in the wet for Phoenix Racing Red. Hendrik Zilker and Steve Hughes completed your top 10, and outside the top 10, Brandon Vincent Squibb and Ashley Brooks completed your into top 12. In the club class, Martin Kenyon, there it is. It's just about fitting onto the screen. 1,005 points, a record. number of points achieved by a single driver in a single season. The UK SimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship for Pistech Racing, your champion by a grand total of 175 points, had a Grant Miller, who today a spin midway through the race cost him dearly, and the Phoenix Racing red driver still holding on comfortably for second ahead of Tom Wheeler, who had his own difficulties for Verso Rapid by Freewheeler Racing. Outside the top three, Stephen Wilkinson ending the season with a brilliant fourth place there, and remember, his first league in over a decade, and well, here is a huge result there for Wilkinson, no doubt about it. One of his first leagues for over a decade. He's raced in a couple, but understandably, the Simcast Racing UK driver putting together a phenomenal result. And in the end, he'll be very pleased with that, just outrunning Alexander Wingmart to that fourth place, getting the upper hand right at the end versus the Beta Frost driver. David Young taking sixth there, a logistical nightmare racing driver from South Africa, the privateer. One into his season, he's had a very strong end to the season, and that sixth place well earned, just ahead of Jordan Butler, whose podium today made sure he finished just ahead of his sister team driver of Matthew Massey for the Spectre Racing outfits. Jordan Maymar couldn't quite end the season on 5 wins. The Simcast driver finished in 9th instead. Ahead of James Connolly, you round off the top 10. David Pilcher and Ryan Clark completed the top 12 for the club class. But as for the team's championship, here we can see your top 5. Verso Rapid by Freewheeler Racing, your champions by 18 points ahead of Send It Racing. So close between the pair of teams, and in the end, Verso Rapid just taking the crown, and Axis Sim Sports with Sim Coach a further 103 points behind. But how they held on in the end, they'll be pleased with that. Ahead of Phoenix Racing Red, who despite the absence of Tom Cordy for the final 3 rounds, well, Grant Miller did all the hard work needed to make sure they didn't slip out of the top 5 and stayed valiantly in 4th. UKSimRacing Hamilton stole away 5th place right at the end on 1,163 points versus the 1,127 of Simcast Racing UK, but they'll still be pleased to get a trophy, as will Pistech Racing with Martin Kenyon's 6th win, moving them back in by just over what was 19 points. And the MK Simsport outfit just missing out on a top 7 and missing out on a crown in terms of a trophy, but still, they'll know if they come back for next season, there's plenty up for grabs given the performances they've had this season. Axis Sports with SimWorks were a little bit further behind, 60 points drift, in fact 70 points drift when I can do maths, and Inspector Racing completing your top 10. And well, that concludes our rundown of the provisional standings after 10 rounds of 10 being completed, ladies and gentlemen. And well done to all of our teams that have earned trophies, all our drivers have earned trophies, but also a big thank you and well done to all of our drivers and teams who competed, whether it's for one round or all of them. They've all been stars, and they have made this season what it has truly been, absolutely spectacular, and why the Sunday Showdown GT3 Championship by UKSimRacing, hosted at SimRacing International, is definitely the place to be when it comes to weekend racing in GT3. But with that, we must now formally begin to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now thinking, well, that season's over, what's next then? How can I get on the grid if I want to go race at SimRacing International? Well, firstly, all you need to do to get into the community is join our official Discord. Invite link at the bottom of your screen. And when you join, you can potentially get yourself onto grid, although do so quickly because places are closing out and they fill up fast. I do believe we've just had all the places filled for our Premier Championship on Thursday evenings in our GT3 Championship that returns for Season 13 to Split A and Split B, 60 drivers in each split, and 120 drivers in total, and I do believe it has sold out, but don't worry, there is a reserve list if you want to go racing GT3s on Thursdays. Alternatively, if you love GT class racing, but you want something with a little bit more thrill, no ABS, we do have a Grand Touring Endurance Championship, Season 3 of which is due to get underway in the near future, happening on Friday evenings with much longer races, 1.5 hours to 2 hours in length every 2 weeks. Alternatively, if you'd like to be on the grid on Sunday evenings for Season 19 of the UKSimRacing Sunday Showdown, this series you tune into today, well, we have got sign-ups open, and we'll have Season 19 very soon, so make sure you get signed up. But if you're looking for something brand new here at SimRacing International, you're probably looking at that Motorsport UK Esports Approved Championship and thinking, that sounds professional. What's that all about? Well, that is our all-new SimRacing International Transatlantic Trophy, of which the first season will be debuting very soon and running on Wednesday evenings every 2 weeks. And to tell you a little bit more about it, well, it's dedicated for the opening season to the McLaren machinery, indeed the premier British manufacturer who has been at the core of open wheel and closed wheel racing for the best part of 7 decades. But to tell you a little bit more about the series, and indeed this championship approved by Motorsport UK, and we're very grateful for their recognition and their contribution to this championship, was our brand new championship, and we will have 4 championships available in this. We've got 2 classes. It is a multi-class series that involves GT3 machines and GT4 machines, both of the McLarens. In GT4 we have the McLaren 570S, and in GT3 we have the McLaren 720 SE. And we also do have a Pro Teams Championship and a Pro Am Teams Championship, consist of over 10 rounds of incredible racing action and plenty of prize and trophies up for grabs. But to go into detail a bit more, there are the machines that you can take racing, whether it be the GT3 or the GT4. And well, depending on the team contribution you have to race as part of a team for this series, your combined die ratings will determine whether you're part of the Pro Team Championship or the Pro Am Team Championship. But either way, you have plenty of competition out there, and it all begins a pre-season media event on Wednesday the 29th of July 2026. But you're probably sat there thinking, well, okay, that's all well and good, but where exactly are we going racing? Well, the good news is we are basing our calendar on the Real World McLaren Trophy that's recently debuted in the Real World of Motorsport, with the first half of the season, with round number 1 beginning on the 12th of August, and it will see us go all the way through to round number 5 on the 7th of October. Well, that's going to be our SRI America Cup, dedicated, of course, to the rounds of the McLaren Trophy America Series. We'll be racing at Indianapolis, Miami, Sonoma, Road Atlanta, and Road America, with a mixture of conditions and a mixture of races of 60 and 90 minutes in length. And then we do the same for the second half of the season with the European Cup, dedicated to the McLaren Trophy Europe. We'll be making our way to Monza on none other than what will be on the 21st of October, and then it will be all the way through to Portimao in round 10 of 10 to complete the season just before Christmas. And again, a mixture of 60 and 90 minute races. And well, do keep in mind, with those different formats, there's plenty to get excited about. Every round will be sure to be full of brilliant battling action. And that is what the Transatlantic Trophy is going to be all about, as of course we'll be racing on one side of the Atlantic for the first half of the season, and the other side on the European continent for the second half of the season, ladies and gentlemen. And well, in terms of the prizes up for grabs, well, for the winners of our championships, we have a brand new, and it will be a one-off trophy dedicated to the McLaren season of racing, the Transatlantic Trophy, and that will be going to the GT3 drivers winner, also GT4 drivers winner, and also all 3 drivers that make up the winning Pro Team. Remember, teams consist of 2 drivers plus a reserve driver who can stand in at certain points. And also there will be the same trophy for the Pro Am Championship winners as well. And we'll also see our Black Edition SRI Championship trophies, 20 of which will be available for 2nd through to 5th in the GT3 and GT4 Drivers Championships, and also for 2nd and 3rd place in both the Pro and Pro Am teams. There's plenty of prize up for grabs, and we will also be doing prizes for what will be your Cup champions in both the American Cup and also the European Cup, although those prizes still to be decided. And there's even a prize, I do believe, planned for the safest and cleanest drivers on the grid. So for all that and more, that is what the Transatlantic Trophy is all about, and we would love to see you join the grid for it. But as well as that, if you're looking for something far more casual, and perhaps you just want something to dip your toes into league racing format, of course we do have our practice league that runs on Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays, so free races per week. And well, there's never been a better time to get on the grid at SimRacing International, whether you're an esports professional all the way through to a rookie racer. We would love to have you. Now, I'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our series and league sponsors, who do include CarMate, Modern Technology, the GP2 Group, and also lastly, we'd like to give a big shout out to Motorsport UK's esports division for recognising us here at SimRacing International as a recommended community. We're very grateful for that recognition, and long may it continue throughout 2026 and beyond. Alas, with this season being complete, what is lying in wait next? Well, of course, it is season 19, and well, there is the date. Sunday, the 28th of June, 2026, we will be back for our 19th installment of the highly popular and in-demand Sunday GT3 Championship. And we'll see a little bit more about next season and what we can reveal to you so far. The calendar is still yet to be decided in terms of the specific venues we're racing at. We'll all be back, and we have 35 personalised driver trophies to be won once again. And the sign-ups are definitely very much open, but get on the grid quick, because they are running out those sign-up spaces very rapidly indeed. And well, we'll be back, and all the racing action will be broadcast from round to round. How we should point out that not all broadcasts will be live. The majority of them will be post-round from circuit side due to my availability, but I'll be pleased to be back in the commentary booth once again, bringing all the racing action as if it were live as it unfolds. And we've got our 3 classes returning: Pro, Inter and Club, and well, you can see the denominations there. Anyone who is 2,000 1,800 or higher I rating will most likely be in Pro, between 1,800 to 2,800 in Inter, and those below 1,800 will be in Club. But of course, that is subject to the administration's review. But we'll have an exciting season ahead, no doubt about it, and the Showdown rounds return once again, proving the success of Season 18. We're going to maintain that success as we go into Season 19 and slightly tweak the formula where needed. And add on to that as well the fact and with our third season for Season 19, well, we'll have our first through to 7th rounds. That'll be the regular rounds, and then rounds 8, 9, and 10 will be those Showdown rounds. And we will have 8 one-hour race rounds, 2 90-minute rounds, and 60 drivers can join the grid in the pursuit of our 35 personalised driver trophies. So if you definitely want to get on the grid, be sure to join the SimRacing International Discord and get yourself signed up, because that's what you're looking forward to when it comes to none other than Season 19 of the UKSimRacing Sunday GT3 Championship, brought to you on iRacing and hosted by SimRacing International. But alas, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Whether you've only joined today or indeed throughout the entirety of the season, you've all been superstars. You've made bringing you these broadcasts what it's all about, and that is bringing you guys and girls at home plenty of entertainment. And well, all we've got to say at this point is we've been SimRacing International. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh. And until next season, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling. For this has been Season 18 of the Sunday GT3 Championship at UKSimRacing. And well, most importantly, as always, ladies and gentlemen, remember, like our drivers, to stay on track. Good night.